My girlfriend is turning 21 and wants me, 21M, to throw her a party. How do I break the news that no one will show up? Birthdays have always been hard on my girlfriend. She's had a few parties as a child where no one showed up, and since moving states in the middle of high school she hasn't made close friends. Here at college, she tries hard to make friends. She talks well to people on a superficial basis but doesn't have any real friends. She's never been invited to a college party and has often missed out on many typical activities. We've been together for 3 years, since freshman orientation. I don't have friends but I'm happy that way. I like keeping to myself if I'm not spending time with her. Since she's naturally extroverted, she spends her free time with me, or at club meetings trying to connect to people. She's asked if I could put together a small party, so I invited some acquaintances, my roommates, etc. Everyone said no. I gave the invites well in advance too. I don't know how to break the news to my girlfriend, she's been so excited. She thought providing free food and drink would be a great way to make friends. But people don't want to come for even that. What can I do? TLDR, my friendly but friendless girlfriend wanted me to throw a 21st birthday party for her, but no one accepted. How do I still make this a special day? How do I tell her without crushing her? Comments. Commenter 1. Why do all these people you know, friends, roommates, etc., dislike her enough not to come? If she is extroverted, what's going wrong with how she interacts with people to make them not want to be around her? Reply, I don't know. She can be a bit silly and goofy, but I like that about her. She doesn't cause drama, she's a good listener, has a good sense of humor. She's extroverted but tends to be shy around new people. She also tends to act pretty differently depending on the person. I do that too to an extent. Honestly, I don't know why people are all declining. I've never been invited to a party but I'd go to support someone. Commenter 2. Why don't you ask them? Reply, they all make BS excuses about being busy. Some of these people I know are not busy that day. I don't think they want to insult her to my face. Commenter 3. They probably don't actually dislike her. They're probably basically neutral about her and are surprised that they're invited to her party. Did you tell them that it's a small party? People will attend big parties even if they're not super close to the host, but a small party basically says, close friends only. They may even feel that you were mistaken in inviting them if they think it's a small party for her best friends. Edit. Recently a woman invited me and a few of my friends to her birthday party. We weren't close with her and definitely wouldn't have gone to her apartment for drinks because it would feel weird since, again, we weren't close. But her party was a karaoke party, which is something my friends and I like to do anyway. So we showed up and had a great time with her. Is there anything that your acquaintances love to do that you could build your party around instead of drinking? Update. I logged into Facebook at like 2 a.m. last night and my girlfriend has posted a message on the party event wall saying the party was cancelled. She saw the no-shows before I could let her know about it. I called her and suggested some other activities we could do, things like amusement parks or concerts or taking a cooking class. I thought she'd like all those ideas. No thank you. We were kinda quiet over the phone, until she asked me in a really small voice if I could come over. We met outside her dorm at like 3 in the morning. She was crying, as I expected. But it was just watery eyes, not full-on sobs how she usually cries. It's okay, she said. Some people aren't meant to have friends. I told her she was exaggerating, that she just needs to look in different places, etc. She shook her head. No, I'm done. This morning at breakfast we passed a lot of mutual acquaintances. Usually my girlfriend smiles and says hello. Today she just kept her eyes on the pavement, not looking at anyone. She barely ate. But other than that she seemed like her normal self with me, talking and laughing. She just wouldn't look at anyone else. She told me how she's going to use this extra time to get better in her classes, to work on her jewelry and maybe open an Etsy shop. To read more books. I asked her if this is really what she wanted. No, but life doesn't always give you what you want. I didn't want to be an engineer. I didn't want to live in a basement alone. I didn't want to hate college and wish every day that I could drop out. But you make the best of it. Her voice was breaking as she said this, but she didn't cry. She left the breakfast table after that and said she wanted to be alone. Where the hell do I go from here? Her actual birthday is tomorrow, we were throwing the party a week later, and she insists she doesn't want to do anything. Is it bad that part of me sort of agreed with her, that some people aren't meant to make friends? I don't think I am, but obviously she wants friends and it's making her miserable. TLDR, girlfriend cancelled party, said she didn't want to do anything for her birthday, and announced that she's given up on finding friends. She isn't going back to any of her clubs or activities, and is going to focus on her studies and hobbies this coming year. Her actual 21st birthday is tomorrow. Where do I go from here? Edit, I am sitting with her in her dorm room right now. She's on the bed reading, I'm on the couch minding my own business, just being near her. She is okay. Comments. Commenter 1. I've read the entirety of your other thread and your comments here, and I have a few thoughts that I hope you won't take personally. You seem to truly care for your girlfriend and I think you're a great boyfriend to her. That being said, neither of you seem to understand social interactions, nor you seem to be reinforcing each other's misunderstandings. You wrote that she skips from group to group events but hasn't even been able to get a girl to go for coffee with her. That's understandable. You would have to meet up in a group setting a few times in college to be memorable and comfortable enough for a one-on-one invite. I feel like she fails on getting the one-on-one invite and she feels as though she's doing something wrong, and you feel as though she's doing something wrong, when in reality she's approaching the situation incorrectly to begin with. If she wants to make friends, she should sign up for book clubs, knitting circles, jewelry making groups, and go to them continuously. Go to www.meetup.com and find some groups for her in your area. They will usually have a good mix of college kids and older in a college town, giving her exposure to people in all stages of life and, more importantly, social spectrums. These are people who want to make friends. Frankly, the fact that you aren't interested in friends is holding her back, though that's not your fault. She wants to be social and has entered into a cycle of not having friends - getting desperate - alienating people through desperation - not having friends. You may feel as though she should just give up, but if she picks up on that, it's only going to make her worse. She is clearly a social person. I have a feeling that you not wanting friends, as a personal choice, and focusing solely on work and your girlfriend, is deterring many people who know you two as a couple. They probably see you as cold and or emotionless, even if you don't mean to be that way. It is unusual to be disinterested in friendship, especially after so long. You've had roommates for 3 or 4 years in college, get along reasonably well with them, and yet have never been interested in them as friends. Of course they won't come to your girlfriend's party. I wouldn't want to either. I would feel weirded out by even being asked. If you want to help your girlfriend, you may just have to step outside of your own social comfort zone a little and at least try to be a little friendlier. Couples tend to meet people together, and if you're coming off as aloof and not needing human interaction, by choice, you're going to run people off away from her. Edit, by the way, I don't mean to put the onus on you to change. If she was here asking for advice, I would be focusing on her. But she's already gotten some great advice from other people here, and I wanted to comment on some things that were sticking out to me in your replies. Update. Short update here. I stayed with my girlfriend for a while last night. She just read a book and didn't talk much. I cuddled her a bit, but she mostly wanted space. This morning, I came to her room with flowers and a gift. She accepted the flowers with a smile. She told me she wanted to go home to her parents this weekend. I was pretty sad about that. I wanted to make her feel loved and special. But she said she needed to get off campus for a bit, so I said okay. I took her to the bus stop, said goodbye, and now here I am. She did love the present though. It was a book she'd been wanting for a while. Hopefully she'll feel better when she comes back. TLDR girlfriend went home for her birthday. Comments. Commenter 1. You have done the right thing so far, so very well done, you are a hell of a guy. One thing though, you might want to ring ahead and tell her parents what happened. I know she seems okay but you don't go from the level of sadness she has had over the last few days to okay that quickly. Might be best if they keep an eye on her. Reply, she's already home by now, it's not very far, and they're likely celebrating her birthday. I don't really want to put a damper on things, she obviously wants to move on. Commenter 2. Ah, fair enough then still, credit to you, you are an awesome boyfriend and a great human being. I know everyone is feeling for your girlfriend right now, including myself, but you have been through hell too. I've been in similar situations and I know how helpless and useless you feel but you are doing all the right things. Top human marks for you. Reply, thanks, I appreciate it. Commenter 3. Remember what people said in your last update, maybe just a quick call to be sure she arrived safely, nothing more needed. Reply, she called me once she got there, she's fine. Update. Anyway, the school year is in full swing and she cries all the time. At least 3 times a week, if not more. She feels like she's taking advantage of my kindness so she tries not to cry in front of me. She's completely abandoned the search to find friends, and doesn't go out except for food, class, etc. There are happy moments too, and she'll still go out with me, but she just seems fragmented overall. She actually did pursue therapy at our university, because she felt like she really needed someone to talk to that wasn't me. They informed her that all the spots they had were full and that unless she was a suicide risk they didn't have room. Heartless, right? It really made her feel bad, but she didn't want to lie and say she was a suicide risk. She feels lonelier than ever. There's no doubt in my mind that she's depressed. She pours all her energy into schoolwork and hasn't really touched her hobbies much either. She can't afford therapy other than the university, and they won't give it to her. Is there any way she can get the help she needs? TLDR, my girlfriend's depression is getting worse. She tried to get therapy and was informed that she couldn't. Is there anything we can do? Comments. Commenter 1. Lastly, and this might be difficult to hear, but she needs to stop placing so much of a priority on people liking her and wanting to hang out with her. I learned long ago that some people just won't like you, and that's perfectly okay. Nothing at all you can do about it. She should pursue her interests, join clubs, etc. When she begins appearing more confident and well-adjusted, friendships will naturally follow. Ding 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 knockout. Reply, that's what she's been doing for the last 3 years. She was actually pretty confident for a while, but I guess she always thought she would have made 1 or 2 friends by now and it's starting to crash down around her. Commenter 2. You're in your senior year, right? Unfortunately by now most people already have a circle of friends. It's going to be much harder to suddenly become the new person in a group who have been hanging out together for years. Close friends in college may not happen for her. She should focus more on getting through school and what comes after. Who knows, maybe everyone in her new job will love her. At the very least it will be a fresh start. Have you considered moving in together after school? I'm pretty introverted and don't hang out with people much, but I come home to my boyfriend every day and that means a lot to me. I don't ever feel lonely. Reply, we do plan to move in together. I plan to propose after graduation. But she doesn't have any plans for herself for after graduation, so I don't know if she'll be happy or not. Commenter 3. Then that's my advice to you, stop focusing on college and focus on what comes after. She needs to start making plans. She is planning to have a career, right? Can she look into getting an internship in something related to her field? Please remind her that she will be starting all over again after she graduates anyway. Stick it out and then just keep trying. Reply, she's in a major she hates, so she's been avoiding everything related to after graduation. I worry about what she's going to do too. She's very smart but her major isn't right for her at all, so if she got into industry she'd probably hate it. Commenter 4. Well, she's gotta figure it out eventually, so why not now? She has to work somewhere after graduating or you are going to end up supporting her financially. Reply, I don't mind supporting her, but I know she wouldn't like that. She might be thinking about a plan, but she hasn't talked about it much. I don't mind supporting her, but I know she wouldn't like that. She might be thinking about a plan, but she hasn't talked about it much. Commenter 5. So talk to her about it. Help her make a concrete plan, then start taking steps to make it happen. Start figuring it out. Where are you guys going to live? What career path is she going to choose? What can she do now, today, to make it easier to get into that career? You say you want to help, so help her. That is going to involve the two of you actually doing something. Reply, I mean, she'll live with me, I've gotten a job and such. She already plans to move with me. But I do agree that she needs to figure out a plan for herself. She wouldn't be happy just staying at home. Stories number 2. Hubby of 10 years, 35 meters, just told me he's planned a ski trip to Canada with a family friend, 22F. I truly trust that he's not planning on cheat on me, but on the surface this seems like a bad idea. Should I put my foot down and say no? I'm 35F. My husband comes from a big group of people that aren't related but were basically raised like one big family. I think at the core there are 6 families who all vacation together, did holidays together, are each other's godparents, etc. They are essentially family. My husband represents the older end of the kids at about 35, while this girl, Shelby, represents the younger end at 22, but to see them together you really would think they are cousins or even brother/sister. Shelby was a flower girl at our wedding when she was 12, so I too have known her a long time. To be very frank, I've never hit it off with Shelby. She's a nice girl and I can't take that away from her. I admit a lot of this may be jealousy on my part because though the little tomboy has blossomed, literally, into a woman that is model good looking. In fact she is a model, she's one of these girls that has been able to turn her Instagram account into a reasonable monthly income. She also is a ski instructor, college student, sweet, funny and lovable, and to top this all off my husband absolutely lights up around her in a way that he doesn't do for anyone else, male or female. To be fair he's like this with our kids too. Meanwhile, I feel like mean awful wife who's gained 50 pounds, yells at the kids about dishes and nags my husband that he can't go skiing, his absolute passion in life, because of my parents' anniversary party. So yes, I admit a big part of this problem is my own insecurity and jealousy. So I had given in and agreed that he should take 2 weeks off this winter to take a once-in-a-lifetime ski trip to Whistler, BC. He was originally supposed to go with a college friend. The trip is all set up and paid for. About an hour ago he calls and tells me that he has bad news and good news. The bad news is his friend backed out of the trip, the good news is that he already talked with Shelby and she has agreed to fill in the now vacant spot, yay/s. I stammered for a little bit and I think what came out of my mouth was, "You are going on a trip with a 22-year-old girl," and he replied with something like, "Well, not any girl, it's Shelby." I think I said, okay, but what about the room?" And he told me that Shelby is like his sister and that he's shared hotel rooms with her before. I told him I was incredibly uncomfortable with this and the last I knew they shared a hotel room was when she was around 5 and he was babysitting her on a vacation. I told him that I really had to think about this and he seemed like he was shocked that I didn't just immediately share his excitement at the good news. We both hung up disappointed. He's going to be home in about 2 hours and I really don't know what to say to him. I very frankly do not want my husband sharing a hotel room with a 22-year-old Instagram model. However, I also know that they booked super early to secure a special rate on the room and if they tried to book a second room now it would buy hundreds, and maybe more, dollars a night. There's a good chance that if he doesn't take Shelby, or get someone else to fill in, he may have to cancel the trip because it will be just too expensive for us in terms of the room, the gas to get there, etc. He's been wanting to do this trip for a very long time and I don't want to ruin it for him. But to repeat, I don't want my husband sharing a hotel room with a 22-year-old Instagram model. Is this a put my foot down situation? Is making me comfortable more important than his dream vacation? TLDR, my 35-year-old husband is planning a ski trip with a 22-year-old girl where they will share a hotel room. I don't want it to happen, but I know this trip means a lot to him. I want to say no but don't know if I should. Relevant comment. Why doesn't OOP go or make it a family vacation? I'm not very athletic and the trip is very, very expensive so it's just out of reach for our family to go. Very frankly, I don't like to be cold so skiing is just not my thing. I don't mind this at all and I'm glad he has something he's so passionate about. We do take a ski trip every year with the kids. I don't ski, I just stay in the room or shop, but this one is so far away that he's having to drive through the night so it's just not a kid-friendly trip. Plus he's a really great skier so he wants to be with other great skiers on this trip. Edit. Greg just got home and kissed me hello as usual and then said he'd already cancelled the trip and was sorry to make me uncomfortable. He's acting like everything is fine and working on our family puzzle with the kids but I know him well enough to know he's really heartbroken at not getting to go. Whether that upset comes from his friend, from me or the Shelby situation I'm not sure. I feel terrible because he works so hard and has 2 jobs and I've taken 2 long vacations without him because he knows being a stay-at-home mom is hard. He's been wanting to ski at Whistler since he was a teenager. I feel awful that my insecurities and lack of excitement at his passions scuttled his trip. I have no idea how to make this up to him because I feel awful. Relevant comments. OOP adds a little more on her 2 trips. My best friend and I took a 2-week trip to Italy last summer so I have done a similar trip to his. Just not with a boy toy for a roommate but then again I don't have any family friends like he does. Commenter 1. To me, the issue isn't about him taking her on the trip, or even sharing a hotel room. The problem is that he didn't run it by you first. He put what he wanted to do ahead of your feelings and input. My best friend is a guy, so maybe my perspective is a bit different. But we've stayed the night in the same room on trips together plenty of times, and it's no different than staying in a room with my female friends, maybe a bit more effort at modesty. Now that I'm in a relationship, my only hesitation to planning a trip with him would be to check with my girlfriend that she was okay with it. Have you ever given him reason to think you weren't okay with them sharing a room in the past? Reply. If I know my husband, what happened is Berto cancelled in the middle of the day with little explanation. My husband then freaked out that his dream trip was going to crumble right before his eyes so he got on his phone and just called everyone he knew might be interested and available. Whether or not Shelby was first I don't know. But I doubt seriously he even thought he had to talk it over with me. So to be fair and to answer your questions, he did have to share a hotel room with my sister when he had to drive out and rescue her when her car broke down in the middle of nowhere. In his brain my sister and Shelby may be on the same relationship level. Edit 2. To add to my guilt, Shelby just called me directly and apologized profusely and wanted me to know how much she loves me and the kids and she would never do anything to make me uncomfortable. No excuses, no blame or anything, just her apologizing to me. Edit 3. I was able to talk to the hotel and managed to just catch a reservation agent before they went home. Not only was I able to get his original reservation back, and the price, I'm dipping into my own fund to upgrade them to a suite, so while it's not 2 rooms, per se, they now will have a living room with a fold-out bed with a separate bedroom, which will go a long way to help me and my insecurities because it won't be a typical hotel room with 2 beds right next to each other. I'm telling Greg in just a minute and then I will call Shelby back and let her know that I appreciate her everything she does for us. I have a lot of work to do on myself, and if anything this has made me realize that my insecurities are a big problem. Edit 4. Saturday, and I promise I will let this go after this. Comments are still evenly split as to whether this is a good or bad idea. At this point I'm as confident as I can be at my decision. I just talked with Greg about some minor concessions and clarifications I would like from him, which were basically, no nakedness or underwear around each other, Shelby gets the bedroom in the suite so she has her private girl space, lock the bathroom door all the time so no possibility of that misunderstanding or accidents, no cute couple pics for her Instagram that could be taken out context, and please call often and Skype at least once a day. I still feel a little too demanding, but I also feel like I'm giving a lot. Greg is beside himself that his dream trip is finally happening, and I just talked with Shelby and she promised me free babysitting for life and a weekend together in Denver at a spa that sponsors her Instagram. Girl isn't doing too bad for herself, apparently a cute butt and cheeky bikinis take you places, winky face. She told me that she loved me about a million times. I really appreciate all the comments yesterday and today. I'm going to really try and turn over a new leaf and get healthy. I'm going to start phasing and eating paleo with Greg, and in just a few minutes I'm going to go to my first ever hot yoga class with a long-term goal of losing weight and really getting healthy, so the next time this comes up, I can share in my husband's passions like he does for me. Then I get the invite to a dream ski trip. Update. So Greg and Shelby just drove up to the house. Greg is getting ready for work and Shelby is actually taking a nap in our guest room since she drove most of the night. The trip went very well and they both had a great time. As for me being insecure, Greg did everything I asked of him to reassure me that there was nothing at all inappropriate going on. He called multiple times a day and we Skyped for maybe 15 to 20 minutes a night almost every night. I got a good idea of the room layout and saw that even though they were sharing a suite, they both had plenty of privacy. I did have one moment early on where the reality of my husband sharing a hotel room with an Instagram model in her 20s sort took my breath away, but it wasn't Shelby's fault. Me and our 9-year-old son were on Skype with my husband and I saw Shelby in the background wearing a swimsuit getting ready to go to the hot tub. When she realized my son was on Skype, they have a very playful, almost flirty relationship, she leaned over my husband's shoulder and said something like, "Hey AJ, I'm going to destroy you in Halo when I get back." But her boobs were basically right on Greg's shoulder with her ample cleavage in full view. In my brain I was thinking, Buster, if your eyes so much as look left, it's over. But Greg didn't even flinch, which made me realize that to him seeing Shelby in a bikini really is like seeing his sister or cousin. So all in all they had a great time. Greg has since left for work and I'm sure I'll chat more with Shelby when she wakes up for her drive across town. As for me, I've spent the last 2 weeks really dedicating myself to lose weight, get healthy and be passionate about something again. I've signed up for a 60-day challenge at our local hot yoga studio and have been going every day. I've started using my MyFitnessPal to count calories. I'm astonished at how much I was actually mindlessly eating for years. And in 2 weeks I've lost just under 5 pounds, which makes me feel really great. TLDR, husband just got back from his ski trip with his young family friend. I was super insecure about, but it turns out it was a good experience for them and hopefully a transformative experience for me. Edit, about 12:30 original post was at 7 a.m. I had no idea this would blow up again, but thank you again. Shelby just left to go to her apartment after we sat and chatted a bit. She is an amazing girl and I get zero hint that anything went on, just adding this for the people who think she and Greg are shady. She was so appreciative and she's going to babysit for us whenever we need it and do a girls' day at a spa in Denver with me when the ski season is over and her weekends free up. What's crazy is how this and my last post's comments are so split down the middle. To just answer the most common questions comments. I was really kidding about him looking at Shelby's bikini. If he looked, but it was still a little shocking to see another woman's more intimate parts so close to my husband. The hot tub pool was for the entire hotel, so as far as I know they were never there alone, at least for very long. I should add that Shelby had a towel around her waist. I didn't go or have the option to go because we have kids in school and Greg booked this trip last summer. They were leaving Sunday and his friend cancelled Friday, so it was far too late to make 2-week child care plans. He asked Shelby, as opposed to other people from that group of friends, because she's the only one really on his level of skiing. Upgrading to the suite cost me $50 a night extra and, which was not cheap, but trying to get 2 rooms would have been $450 a night extra. This was the best compromise I could come up with. I'm still insecure, but I'm working on it. I'm not sure if I need therapy or need to just get something in my life other than kids' husband to look forward to. I was in quite a rut. The hot yoga has really helped because it's challenging and I've made new friends. Thank you again for all the comments, the positive and the negative. I'm not a great writer, so the people who like how I handled this will continue to, and the people that didn't like what I did won't. Just trust one handled this the best way I knew how. To the guys asking for Shelby's Instagram, funny but no. Stories number 3. Am I the jerk for canceling my nephew's birthday party because my sister wouldn't respect my house rules? So this happened last weekend, and I'm still getting heat from my family over it. I, 32M, agreed to host my nephew's 7th birthday party at my house because my sister, 29F, let's call her Jessica, lives in a small apartment and couldn't accommodate all the kids and family. I have a big backyard and a pool, and I was happy to help out. Now, here's the thing, I do have a few rules in my house, especially because I work from home and have expensive tech equipment, books, and some irreplaceable collectibles in a dedicated office/library space upstairs. One clear rule, no kids upstairs. I reminded Jessica of this multiple times. She laughed it off at first, but I made it clear, if kids go upstairs, the party's over. She said she understood. Fast forward to the day of the party, about 15 kids are running around, and everything's going fine. I step inside to get more drinks and notice two of the kids, not even my nephew, sprinting down from upstairs, giggling and holding one of my vintage Transformers figures, one that my late dad gave me when I was a kid. The box is torn, the toy's missing a leg, and I pretty much freeze. I call out Jessica and tell her what happened. She says, "Oh come on, they're just kids. You can't expect them to stay downstairs for hours." I reminded her that she promised me, and that this was the one rule. She rolls her eyes and says, "Don't be such a control freak. It's just a toy." That was it. I told everyone the party was over and asked people to leave. There were a lot of groans, and my nephew started crying, which made me feel awful. But I stood my ground. Now my family's blowing up my phone saying I ruined a kid's birthday over a plastic figure, and that I embarrassed Jessica in front of everyone. Even my mom said I should have just let it go, for the sake of the children. But to me, it's not about the toy, it's about trust and respect. I hosted the party for free, gave them a great space, and all I asked was for one boundary to be respected. Stories number 4. Am I the asshole for saying, "Good job," after my kid defended herself from a bully by punching him? I need to see if I am crazy here. My kid, F13, has a bully. He's one of those kids who's related to someone in the school district. We've has multiple issues with this kid harassing mine, but my kid is bullied a lot sadly. We're actually switching her into a new school because the public schools have done nothing, and this past semester it got physical. The bully pushed her and she stumbled back. Fortunately only scratches, but I was livid. The bully got suspension, but he's been suspended before. I tried talking to the parents and they make excuses, of which the wildest is that they'll probably end up together someday, because of how they argue. I told them under no uncertain terms that their son is not to even look at my daughter, and his only words to her need to be an apology. I got the, "Well, he's suspended, so what else do you want?" argument. This summer she was in STEM camp, she begged to be signed up, but so was the bully, and this time, during their outdoor break, the teacher was physically on his phone when the bully, in full view of multiple students, pushed my daughter and she turned and punched him in the stomach. The bully is now up for possible suspension from the camp, not the district, but I lodged another formal complaint, this time threatening a lawsuit. I asked my daughter if she defended herself, and she said she was afraid he was going to hurt her because he threatened to knock her out. I said okay. Good job defending yourself. Glad you're okay. Let's just catch a movie and decompress. I told my siblings on Father's Day and was immediately told by my eldest brother and his wife that I should never have encouraged her to fight anyone. I argued that I didn't. I am glad she defended herself when she was scared and the person I trusted her care to was not even paying attention. They argue that now she will see punching people as okay the next time she gets her feelings hurt, that I am a bad parent for opening that door. Am I? I mean, if she's in trouble and in physical danger, I don't want her to ever think she will get in trouble for defending herself, but now I'm second-guessing everything. She's seemingly okay now, and I took the week off so we can celebrate Juneteenth together and just decompress from it, but I want her to grow up and be safe. Am I TAH for saying good job? Holy shit, that's a lot of comments. Editing some typos and also clarifying some questions and assumptions, as I can't answer that many comments tonight. Multiple students confirm her story. So no, I don't think she's lying and started a fight for no reason. She's as level-headed as they come, and I won't say she's never lied to me, but I will say I tend to know when she does. Cameras are being checked because I formally requested today. I am not a dad but a mom. Not everyone agreed with my brother, but enough of them did that made me question, and he and his wife were very insistent. Comment. From what I understand of the situation, she ran for the teacher right after she threw the punch. Update. So about a week ago I posted about a bullying sitting with my kid who is F13. And I mentioned this bully is a relative of someone who works high up in our district. I went into a meeting with the district after my formal request for the camera footage of the event, and I continued to follow up via email and call but kept getting stonewalled. I was frustrated, so I spoke with my BFF who works in education, and she suggested a police report could put a Bunsen burner under their asses. She was right. Once I had a copy of my report for the assault and armed with all my past complaints and emails with the resource officer of the kid's school, I sent it to my point of contact with the district. It's a freaking miracle, I got a call the same day. A meeting was arranged and I meet with them next week. Juneteenth was wonderful, and my kid had a blast. She hasn't been punished, and honestly, I was really enjoying spending time with her, so we took advantage of the time, saw a movie, went shopping, etc. I work a lot and am a single mom, so free time outside the general weekends has been rare as of late, especially now that she's doing camps, making friends, and wanting to do sleepovers and such. I posted some photos on my private account and my brother sent me a text. I won't go into everything, because his message was long, but basically he said I am spoiling her when she should be punished for fighting in school and I will be raising a criminal. I told him that he can mind his business and his own children, and he said, she's not even really yours, and I lost it. My message back was that he's not been supportive since my husband died, and come to think of it, he wasn't supportive when we married. So I don't take his opinion on my daughter with any high regard. And if he and his wife want to instill in children that they should let someone hurt them or others and bullies should have their way, then maybe it's time we spent less time around them. We were going to go to the birthday party for my Isael before all of this happened, a family event. I think my daughter and I will skip that for now. And before it's asked, she is not biologically my daughter but legally, and in the way of the fact that I love her more than anything. I formally adopted her when she was 2 after I married her father. He passed away when she was 6 and I've had sole custody since. Her biological mother is not in the picture. Since my husband passed, it's just been me and her in the day-to-day. Update: we had the meeting over Zoom. I came in expecting to have to come in guns blazing like a maniac. I was ready to go off, go fully feral. But I guess all the legal work I've been doing around this was sufficient fire under their rears. I was indirectly asked to not further involve authorities. The footage finally found proved my daughter's story. With this evidence and all the stuff I've managed to bring to the table, plus having a lawyer's contact info sent to them, they finally expelled the kid. I was assured he will not be at school next semester. It was a win, but not enough for me to stop the legal actions. Maybe that makes me the AH, but fuck it. I don't care. Charges are being pressed for assault armed with the video. Here it's not life-ruining unless he keeps the pattern of abuse. But I am also looking to get my kid in a STEM-oriented school since that's her passion right now. I looked at packages and tuitions etc. and it will tight but doable, and I truly believe she's gifted/smart/hardworking enough that giving her a chance to explore this is worth any inconvenience. That should be it, right? Oh, you sweet summer child. My daughter doesn't even know about the meeting. She's been happily in camp elsewhere during the day. But a few days ago she asked me, Mama, do you think I'm a bad person? And I told her that I didn't. She asked me why does her uncle think so? I asked what she meant. My beloved brother's stepson has been texting my daughter as they are actually close. Brother has been shit-talking my kid. He calls her my stray kitten and not real family. That fucking did it. I am having a barbecue at my place for July 4th and I formally uninvited him and his wife. I sent him a text stating that the way he treats me and my kid is simply unacceptable. I am a mom and my duty is to my kid. I cannot have someone who looks down on her and treats her badly come into her home where she is to be safe. He is not a safe person for my child and thus not welcome in my home. My brother lost his mind on me so badly I had to mute his number a while to get some peace. He started with put-downs and insults, but then he went for my kid. He called her some terrible things and then said that I am brain dead for keeping my stray after all the trouble she's made. I just asked, wow. What is your problem with her, really? You're doing the fucking most to hate her. Like, how does a grown man get off hating a literal child? He told me to fuck off. So I sent screenshots to Mom. Yeah, I tattled. I'm grown. Don't give a shit anymore. Fuck this guy. He's my brother. I love him. But I do not like him, and if he's going to show his whole ass, may as well fetch Mom so she can pull his stick out of it. That was an hour ago. My kid and I headed out for pizza. Have fun, bro. He better be glad it's our mom and not me about to hand him his own hind. Tonight I will try to talk to my daughter about the school, and sadly that uncle and auntie are great a liquid shits. I won't use that phrase, but I'm pissed, and so won't be around, and we may be taking some time, just her and me. We are a team. Me and her against the world. I will always have her back. Oh, and she and I will together be taking Krav Maga. Thanks for the suggestions. With the bully dealt with, I think this is my final update, so I wanted to say thanks to everyone who kept this mama sane and were supportive. It's crazy how simple, kind and affirming words can bolster a person. For those who've shared stories of being bullied, I'm sorry you went through that, and as for your bullies, may a popcorn kernel be lodged in each tooth and unreachable every single day. Love always, Chavi NV. Comment: he's already a hypocrite. He's biologically my cousin. He's adopted himself. That's why I told Mom. I don't have the brain space or energy to unravel his non-logic. Stories number 5. Whipta if I move out of our apartment knowing my fiancé and his mom can't afford it without me. Me, F29, and my ex fiancé, M27, have been living together for about 1.5 years. Fiancé got his undergraduate degree, worked for a couple years and then decided to get an MBA, which is how he ended up in our city. We moved in together after he finished his MBA program. Fiancé is from the Midwest and his mom has always wanted him to move back. When he told her he was staying here she was heartbroken. I went to college and got my degree in a STEM field. After I graduated, I got a job with my current company and moved to the city where we currently live. It's a big international company with multiple locations in the US and international. I love my job, I like the company I work for, and the pay is pretty good. All in all, a pretty good deal. During COVID my office shut down and we all went WFH. After COVID they decided not to reopen this office, so I've been 100% WFH since early 2020. I currently make considerably more than him, mainly because I've been working for 7 years and I'm in tech. I had been living by myself in a 1-bedroom apartment and just had my office set up in the living room since it was just me. When we moved in together, we decided to get a 2-bedroom apartment so I could use the extra room as an office. Because of this I was paying 2/3 of the rent and he paid 1/3. We split everything else 50/50ths. So the problem started this past May. Fiancé's mom told him she wanted to move to our city to be closer to him. She asked if she could stay with us while she looked for a job and got settled. She's a teacher so figured she'd be able to get a teaching job pretty quickly. Because of that I didn't really mind her staying with us as I figured it would just be for a couple months over the summer. Since I thought it would only be for a couple months, I moved my office into a corner of our bedroom and fiancé bought a bed to put in the second bedroom. The problem is she never applied for any teaching positions and has been living with us for 6 months now. She and I have really been struggling with each other since she moved in. I can't make her understand that I work full-time. She constantly interrupts while I'm working, which is bad enough, but she even interrupts when I'm on Teams calls. She always asks me to take her places BC she doesn't like to drive in our city. She has pretty outdated views of gender roles and is constantly giving me a hard time for not doing more around the house and making fiancé help with chores, do his own laundry, etc. The constant criticism and insults are just really wearing me down. And I hate having my office shoved in a corner of the bedroom. Back in September I told my fiancé that since it looks like his mom is going to stay a while we should split the rent 3 ways. He told me she can't afford that since she has to conserve money until she gets a job. I told him I wasn't happy paying extra for a bedroom I can't use, so finally he said we could do a 50/50th split. I could afford to pay the extra, but I hate the idea of funding her lifestyle. Every time I complain about her or the situation he says he agrees but doesn't know what to do because he can't kick out his mom. And he won't talk to her about the way she treats me or how she behaves. When I ask what the long-term plan is, he just says he doesn't know. I've thought about giving him an ultimatum to tell her she has to leave, but I think he'd just end up resenting me for essentially putting his mom on the street. So one of my girlfriends is losing her roommate the end of February. Our lease renews June 1st. I'm very strongly considering moving out of our current apartment and moving in with her. I can afford to pay my part of rent on our current apartment and also half the rent at my friend's apartment. It's not ideal, but I'm not a big spender, so it's doable. The issue is, if he and his mom aren't able to pay for 1/3 the rent each, there is no way they could cover the whole thing on their own. But I can't live like this anymore, so I'm pretty sure this is what I'll do, but I wanted to see if people thought I'd be the AH for leaving them like this. Sum of comments. Commenter 1. If you move and pay rent for your old place and your new place then you are foolish. There is no incentive for things to change because you are just letting it go and not putting your foot down. Reply, sorry, I should have made that more clear, I'm on the lease in my current apartment, so I can't just up and leave. But I can afford to pay half the rent at the new place and have the rent at the old place for 3 months until my current lease is up. Commenter 2. I'd only pay rent at the old place until the lease is up in June. So basically 3 months. And only because I don't want my credit trashed. Commenter 3. It sounds like it would be best for you TBH. Mom isn't evicted, you guys can keep dating whilst living separately, and your work will not be disturbed. Or why not just find a studio flat for Mom? Reply, I've suggested we find something for her and even suggested we could help her out with rent until she gets a job, but I get the same answer no matter what. She has to conserve money so she can't spend any more than she already is, which is 0. Commenter 4. Is he going to be your ex because of this situation or he was already an ex? Either way, NTA. But I was just thinking if you move out, maybe he will see what he lost and be more motivated to get rid of his mom. That way he won't resent you for it. Reply, he's probably going to be my ex because of this situation. Before she showed up, everything was good. But since she got its shit show. Honestly, at this point we're just two roommates that happen to sleep in the same bed. I can't even remember the last time we had personal time, because she's always around, always watching TV in the living room on the other side of our bedroom wall. Commenter 5, my other half never had an issue with my relatives moving in. My mom once moved in for a year. He never said a word. My brother moved in for 6 months. Again he said nothing. He expected nothing from them. His sister moved in for over a year and nothing was said. I am really shocked that so many people treat family like crap. Reply, but how did your relatives treat your other half? Or how did his sister treat you? And how did them being there affect your living arrangements and work arrangements? Did they interrupt your work day and affect your performance at work? I've had to squeeze my entire work setup into a cramped, uncomfortable corner. If she would just show some respect it would have made a huge difference. But why would I want to support someone that treats me like crap, disregards the fact that I have a full-time job, is critical of everything I do, and insults me? Update post. I started off trying to reply to everyone's comments and keep up, but honestly I just got completely overwhelmed with all the comments. First off, I want to thank everyone for their feedback and comments, even the ones that were kind of harsh. Actually, probably especially the ones that were kind of harsh. I really needed some tough love to make me realize that I was letting my STBX and his mom take advantage of me. The more comments I read, the more pissed off I got. Honestly, I think I'm more pissed at myself for allowing this to happen and not advocating for myself more. This past weekend I got my STBX alone so we could talk, which was actually harder than it should have been because his mom always tries to tag along when we do anything. Going through all the comments everyone left and the PMs people sent really helped me decide how to approach this. And also, brought up a lot of good questions I should have thought of myself. Back to the discussion with the ex, I wanted to give him one more chance to pick us over his mom, not because I thought he would but I just wanted to be able to tell myself I give him the opportunity. I explained again about how unhappy I am with the situation, how it's affecting my work because of her constant interruptions and just being unhappy and uncomfortable that I'm forced to work out of a corner in our bedroom. And I reminded him that until a few months ago I was paying the majority of the rent, and being that I make so much more than him, it's really my salary that keeps us all afloat. And I also brought up, again, the way she treats me and talks to me. And he replied the same way he has been. He agrees it's not right how she acts and that it's really uncomfortable for us all. WTF. I don't care if she's uncomfortable. Previously I would have dropped it there. But this time I told him how angry and disappointed I was that he let me pay for 2/3 of the rent when she first moved, and how unfair it was that I'm still paying for half when there are 3 people living there and she is the only one with her own bedroom. It was the same story, she has to conserve money since she doesn't have any income currently. Which brought up the question of where all her stuff went when she moved. What money does she use for incidentals? So evidently, when she got divorced, she asked for the divorce after my ex went off to college. It doesn't sound like her husband/ex's dad wanted the divorce. His dad bought her out of the equity in their house. Ex didn't have any idea how much that was or how much is left. But until she moved here she was working full-time as a teacher and living in a small apartment, so she should not have had to tap into the divorce settlement money very much. Other than that, ex didn't have much insight to her finances other than what she told him, that she has to conserve money. I told him straight up that I'm moving out before the end of the month. And from now on I'm only paying 25%, as some of the commenters pointed out. She has a whole bedroom while I have to share with a man-child. So she should have to pay twice as much, and after I move out I'm not paying for anything else, no utilities, no food, nothing other than rent. I have a pretty idea what his finances are like, and if he has to pay 75% of the rent all by himself it's going to take a huge chunk of his net income. And after he pays utilities and buys groceries there won't be anything left for incidentals. Rent was due on the 1st but it's not late until after the 5th, so he has 2 days to come up with the $. If he doesn't come up with it and I end up covering, then I'll reduce the amount I pay in future months. The only reason I'm going to keep paying any of the rent is even after I move out, I'm still on the hook. I talked to the leasing office and they explained that since X and I signed a single rental agreement together, e.g. one contract we both signed as opposed to 2 contracts we sign individually, we are both responsible for the rent. They don't care who actually pays as long as it gets paid. The only alternative would be if he agrees to sign a new lease by himself, or together with his mom. But in all likelihood he wouldn't be able to pass the credit check on his own, so I'm kind of stuck. I don't think he'll do anything stupid tough because he's going to need to find someplace to live after this, and a collection on his credit report wouldn't be good. I also told him that I'm going to find someplace to work during the day until I move so she can't bother me. My friend I'm moving in with said I could work there during the day since she and her current roommate have in-person 9-5s. I took her up on that for now. After living with his mom, I'm not about to overstay my welcome, so I'm going to find some other options that I can rotate through. Someone suggested checking out the public library, or if it comes to it I'll get a membership at one of those WeWork kind of places. Just in case, I brought my important papers/files/valuables and my friend is storing them for me until I move in. He really didn't take it well. The surprising thing to me is that he was surprised by everything. He seemed really shocked that I wasn't prioritizing his mom. I really got the feeling that he sincerely believed I wanted to take care of her as much as him, and he kept saying stuff like, "What about my mom? What am I going to tell her? That's how she is, but we still need to help her," etc. He asked about our relationship and the engagement. I told him after I move out I need some space from him. In a few months, when we've both had some time/space to process what happened, if we both agree we can talk about the relationship. But he'd have to prove that he's going to have my back going forward and will set boundaries with his mom. I told him that just to avoid more drama, but I don't see a future in which we are together. I told him he needs to tell his mom because she's not my responsibility or problem, and she'll know something's up when I start moving my stuff out. He hasn't told her what's going on yet, but this weekend I'm going to start moving things so he doesn't have much time. My friend's current roommate starts a new job in another state on the 3rd, so in reality I can probably move in 2 to 3 weeks, just depending when she actually leaves. I don't expect him to do anything bad, other than sulk and complain, but if he does something stupid, or doesn't pay his part of the rent, the ace up my sleeve is I'll tell the leasing office his mom moved in, which is prohibited in the lease. Honestly, getting evicted would solve a lot of my problems right now, so it's a pretty valid threat, I think. Now that I've mentally and emotionally separate myself from him and his mom, I'm looking forward to her reaction when he tells her what's going on. If it gets too ugly, I'll find a cheap Airbnb or hotel or something. I've had some friends, including the one I'm moving in with, offer to let me couch surf for a few weeks, but I just can't do that to someone else. So, that's it, I'm leaving and I really don't care how that affects them. Sum of comments. Commenter 1, notify your landlord in writing that you are moving out and to take you off the lease after June 1st. You wouldn't want to do nothing and accidentally trigger an automatic renewal. Reply, already did that. I did it before I went to talk to the front office and confirmed that they received it while I was down there. Commenter 2, stick with your plan, you're almost free. Do not ever be pulled back into this toxic situation. Don't forget that the two of them are still lying to you. You pay 1/3 and he'll figure out the rest. The mother has money to pay her part. Don't be fooled. Reply, nope, I'm paying 25%. She has a whole bedroom to herself while I have to share, so she should have to pay more. I just wish I had had more of a backbone when this whole fiasco started. Update post 2. Wibta, if I move out of our apartment knowing my fiancé and his mom can't afford it without me, I moved out. Hey everyone. I've been getting a lot of requests for updates, so I wanted to let everyone know how it went when X's mom found out about me not covering all the rent and moving out. TLDR, it was kind of a shit show. But I'm moved out and I'm off the lease. FMIL is on the lease now and she and X's dad are covering half the rent and STBX is covering the other half. Last week I started working out of my friend's apartment, the one I'm moving in with, so I didn't see X's mom on Monday. Tuesday around lunch she sent me text asking where I was. I told her I was working and I'd be home late tonight. She replied that X told her I wasn't going to be contributing as much, so she had to loan him money for rent. That wasn't a surprise to me, so I just replied with a thumbs up emoji. I had plans with my friend and her roommate, who I'm also friends with, to go out for dinner and then get some drinks. So by the time I got home it was after midnight and X's mom was already asleep. The fun started Wednesday morning. I was getting ready to go to work at my friend's place when X's mom stopped me and said we need to discuss my financial situation. Then she went on a whole tirade about her having to cover my part of the rent, me making foolish choices by going out to dinner when I couldn't even pay rent, I was irresponsible with money and inconsiderate of the impact it had on others, blah blah blah. She went on to say that if she was going to have to pay my share of the rent that she expected me to do a better job of keeping on top of chores and keeping the apartment clean and organized. I told her I was moving out since obviously STBX hadn't told her yet. She seemed, I don't know, pleased with herself. All she had to say was, maybe that's for the best. When I got home that night, right off the bat, she wanted to talk. She said instead of me moving out, we could get a bigger apartment and she'd be willing to help by paying the difference between a 2BR and a 3BR. Then we could go back to the arrangement X and I had before she moved in, me paying 2/3 of the balance and him paying 1/3. Honestly, when she was saying this I think my brain vapor locked. She was making it sound like she was doing us a favor by offering to pay the increase in rent. Apparently this man-child who tells his mom literally every single thing about our lives and relationship hadn't bothered to tell his mom how much I was actually contributing. It seems like once she discovered X wasn't paying for everything like she thought, she wasn't as excited about me moving out. I tried to be polite and told her I'd already given notice to our apartment complex that I was moving out at the end of the month and already committed to move in with my friend. She kept pushing the issue and said if she was willing to pay the difference, I should just stay, because that would really be best for everyone. By then I was getting annoyed and told her that because of the way she has been acting and treating me I had no interest in living with her anymore. That's when the best line of this whole dumpster fire came out of her mouth. She said she was worried I was taking advantage of her son, and if we had told her about our financial arrangement she would have been more understanding of why I wasn't keeping up with the apartment. I told her maybe a good lesson from this is to try being nice to everyone in the future and not just the people you think can help you. And I asked her why she didn't help out more since she wasn't doing anything productive all day. She did not like either of those comments and it got pretty hostile with both of us yelling at each other. And to be fair, we both said some pretty awful things to one another. Finally I told her I was going to inform the rental office that she had been living there contrary to the lease agreement because getting evicted would be worth it to see her living on the street. I grabbed my laptop and went to my friends. I didn't even bother packing an overnight bag. Next afternoon, Thursday, X texted me and said he had added his mom to the lease effective the first of the month and that she and his dad, I have no idea how that poor man got roped into this, would pay half the rent and X would pay the other half. I confirmed with the property manager that I was off the lease and didn't have any further obligation. I got it in email so I have a record. I put disconnect orders in for the utilities under my name and told him to call and set up accounts under his name. I'm going to lose the damage deposit, it goes to whoever is living there when lease ends, but it's a small price to pay to be free. On the way home I stopped and got a bunch of boxes to pack my stuff up. She was pretty hostile when I got home and when she saw how much I was taking she got worse. I ended up taking Friday off to finish packing and on Saturday got some friends to help move stuff to my new place. I'm going to pay my friends some rent for the next 2 weeks until the one move out. They didn't want me to, but I'm not going to stay in someone's home and not contribute. If nothing else, living with X and his mom taught me that. Last night X and I got together and talked for the first time since Saturday. He said his mom is staying until June when the lease is up, then she's moving back to their hometown. According to him, she just really didn't like living here and that's why she didn't try to find a job. Then he asked how long a break I thought we should take. A few commenters gave me a hard time for stringing him along, so I was brutally honest and told him I could not be with someone that allowed others to treat me the way he allowed his mom to treat me and that I hoped he learned to stand on his own and establish some boundaries. He looked like he was going to cry and just got up and left. As far as I'm concerned, this is over and done. I'm going to call it a learning experience and be glad I found out how awful X's mom is before we got married. The thing that amazes me is the amount of damage this woman leaves in her wake and how utterly oblivious she is. She destroyed our engagement and relationship, is leaving X in a much worse financial situation, pushed back her ex-husband's retirement by I don't know how many years since now he likely has to pay off of the mortgage, or second mortgage, he had to get to pay her half of the equity. And she made my life hell for 6+ months. And she's walking away completely unscathed. According to my ex, she's going back to her hometown and picking up her old teaching job. I'm thinking about going to visit my parents next week and working from their house. I want to tell them how boring and undramatic they are and how I'm so grateful for that and love them for it lol. Some of comments. What all was OOPs? Pretty much everything in the kitchen was mine. When we moved in together he was fresh out of grad school and didn't have much of anything. He wasn't quite as bad as Kate Bishop in Hawkeye, 1 plate, 1 fork, 1 spoon, but it was close lol. Everything in the second bedroom / my office other than the bed and his mom's clothes, a chest of drawers, some shelves, and a small TV. The couch was his, bed is mine, I let him buy from me, mainly because I didn't want to deal with moving it. Plus some assorted small furniture and stuff. The apartment is kind of barren now lol. Maybe mommy will help him decorate. Commenter 1, then he asked how long a break I thought we should take. I lost my shit when I read that. I hope this whole experience has opened his eyes and at least matured him a small degree. Reply, I have to admit, I thought he'd be able to read the room on his own. But this helped validate my feelings on the whole thing. X's mom's antics. Anytime we asked her to do something like loading / unloading the dishwasher or other minor chore she'd complain that we were asking her to take care of our apartment. I really was mind-blowing that she would complain like this but literally wouldn't do anything unless my ex basically begged. And then she'd make a big deal over all the help she was giving us. Commenter 2, it sounds like your ex wanted to save his pride and avoid disappointing his mother by concealing how much of the expenses you were paying and he happily threw you under the bus to do so. Even when confronted with what his mother was doing to you as a result of his lies, he kept it up. His mother was damaging to your relationship but it was mostly him that wrecked it by betraying you like that. I'm just glad you found out the truth about the kind of person he is before you got married. Reply, I do think this is a lot of it. She made a really big deal about him getting an MBA and I think she assumed he was going to be making a huge salary out of the gate. To be fair, he probably will make good money in the future but he needs to put his time in and work for it. I think he was afraid/embarrassed to tell her what he really made. Plus, he has student loans for his MBA to pay for so he's going to have a few lean years. But we all do so there is nothing wrong with it other than it didn't match her expectations. Commenter 3, I wonder what Mael's endgame was, probably to get her son to move back home to their hometown. Now that she's husbandless, she wants her son to step into that role and he wouldn't do that while married and away. But now he won't be married and can't afford to live away. Diabolical. Reply, I've been asking myself the same thing since I heard she is planning to move back home. Honestly, I think you nailed it. Especially when you factor in her divorcing her husband when X went to college. He told me about that before his mom moved here and I remember thinking at the time that was kind of weird. I just figured they were one of those couples that stayed together for the kids, but now it seems so much worse. Commenter 4, yes, glad you got out. He needed to hear the harsh truth of not coming back to him. He did this to himself when he didn't back you up. Who wants to be with a spineless jellyfish? Reply, honestly, I was intentionally kind of a bitch. He's complicit in torching our relationship, but I did love him. I was worried if I wasn't blunt with him he'd try to talk me into trying again and I wanted to close that door for good. Ex's dad and all of this. From the way my ex talked, I don't think his dad wanted to get a divorce. It makes me wonder if he thinks this might be a way to convince her to go back to him. I can't imagine why he would want her to but it's the only explanation I can think of. New update post. I haven't posted here BC honestly there hasn't been any real drama or updates since my last post. But, I've had several people DM asking for an update so I thought I'd let everyone know how everything turned out. If you haven't seen it, you can find the history in my profile. After I moved out of my ex and I's place I did end up going to visit my parents for a while. It was really just to give the girl whose lease I was taking over space to get her stuff packed up and moved out. It was great to visit with my parents and they were really supportive about everything and the choices I made. Mom and I spent a whole Sunday afternoon on the couch watching awful Hallmark movies while Dad fed us way too many mojitos. I've been living with my friend for about 4 months and everything has been going great. I feel like we're both super respectful and considerate of each other and it's made everything so easy and chill. After dealing with my ex's mom for so long it was kind of a shock not to have all the drama and toxicity. I did hear from ex's mom 3 times after I moved out. The first time she texted to ask if I'd taken the air fryer, I did, it was mine. Then she texted a couple weeks later asking me to give her a ride to the pharmacy to pick up her prescriptions. And then she texted one last time telling me I needed to pay May part of the utilities for the last month I lived there. I ignored her the first 2 times and the last time responded that she should either use the money she saved while I was covering her rent or use the money they get back from the damage deposit. It's been crickets since then. I did see my ex one last time about 6 weeks ago. He found some of my stuff that I'd accidentally left behind so we met up so he could give it to me. I was glad we met up because it convinced me I'd done the right thing. I didn't feel anything when I saw him except for relief that I didn't need to deal with his mom anymore. He asked if I'd be willing to give it another try if he put boundaries in place with his mom. I was honest and told him that I didn't see him in that way anymore and did not want to get back together. He looked like he expected that answer and didn't make a fuss. He did say that after I left stuff with his mom got pretty tense. I guess things were tight financially, which I knew would happen, and she was upset that due to his job he couldn't drive her around and cater to needs. He said she ended up moving back to their hometown the beginning of May, which was the final month of their lease. He said was going to move back also once the lease was up because his friends were all in the middle of leases and already had roommates. He didn't want to live with a stranger and the only apartments he could afford on his own were studios in really sketchy areas. So he's going to go back home and live with his dad. He didn't have a job there yet, but he figured it was the safest option. He's got his MBA and almost a couple years of work experience since graduating, so he's hoping that'll help him find a new job reasonably quickly. I kind of feel bad for him because he loves it here and his hometown isn't awesome. I didn't feel too bad though since it's really his own fault everything ended up this way. He didn't say how or what his mom was doing and I didn't ask. I haven't seen or heard from him since then. I'm pretty clear I wasn't interested in trying again, and I don't want to be friends, as I just don't need the drama. I've been on a couple casual dates but really I'm not looking for anything right now. I'm just enjoying hanging out with friends, taking advantage of the summer going hiking and stuff. I've spent some time reflecting on everything. I think if I'd been more vocal early on and stood up for myself, insisted that she pay rent, and not let her overstay that maybe all this could have been avoided. But I'm glad I don't have to deal with her anymore, so I'm content with how everything ended up. Cheers and be well. Stories number 6. Aita for making my friend pay me back after she accidentally used my credit card on a shopping spree. Okay, so this sounds wild, but hear me out. Me, 23F, and my best friend Kira, fake name Av, have been tight since high school. Like, she stayed over at my place, we've shared clothes, all that. We trust each other. Last weekend, we went to the mall. I bought a few things, and I guess I left my card in her car cup holder after paying for snacks. Didn't even notice it was missing. The next day I see 3 random charges on my account, $63 at Sephora, $42 at Zara, and $28 at some food place I don't even like. I text her like, girl, did you use my card? And she goes, OMG, I thought it was mine. I swear I didn't mean to. I'll pay you back. Okay, cool, mistakes happen, but like a week goes by, no money. I follow up, she ghosts me for 2 days, then finally responds saying, do you really need it back that bad? It was an accident, bro. It's not about needing it, it's the principle. $130 something is not, oopsie, money, and she never even offered to drop off the stuff or anything. Just used my card and kept it moving, so I told her either she pays me back by Friday or I'm freezing the friendship like I froze the card. She called me dramatic and said, I'm ruining a friendship over a simple mistake. Am I though? Aita for expecting her to make it right even if it wasn't on purpose. Stories number 7. I let a stranger borrow my charger at the airport 6 months later, she changed my life. So I was stuck on this long layover in Denver. The airport was super crowded and every outlet was taken. People were basically guarding their chargers like their lives depended on it. I noticed this woman nearby who looked pretty stressed. She kept checking her phone and you could tell it was about to die. I had my power bank with me and, for once, it was actually charged. So I just handed it to her and said, hey, you can use this if you want. She looked at me like I just handed her a winning lottery ticket. Are you serious? Yeah, go for it, I said. While her phone charged, we started talking. She had just come from a job interview and was heading home. Told me she hadn't worked in over a year and wasn't sure if she was still cut out for it. I told her she totally was. We ended up chatting for like half an hour before I had to board. She gave me back the charger, thanked me a bunch, and that was it. Then last week, I went to this local networking thing I almost skipped. Halfway through, someone taps me on the shoulder and says, I don't know if you remember me, but you let me borrow a charger in Denver. It was her same smile, but now she seemed way more confident. She told me she got the job, moved to a new city, and everything kind of turned around after that. She said that little moment stuck with her not because of the charger, but because it reminded her that people still care. That someone saw her and believed in her. We talked for another hour. Now she's mentoring other women who are getting back into work, and honestly she just seemed really happy. It's wild how something so small turned into something that big. You really never know what a little kindness can lead to. And for me, that moment changed how I move through the world too. I started paying more attention to people around me. Being a little more open, a little more willing to pause and connect. I never used to think small gestures mattered that much, but now I get it, they really can echo. Stories number 8. My 32F husband, 36M, became a robot and I don't know how to help him. We've been married for 6 years and have 2 kids. I'm pregnant with a third. My husband works from 9 to 5, comes home, does his chores, plays with our 2 kids, talks to me for a little bit, and then goes to sleep. But he doesn't seem to enjoy doing any of it. Like this whole thing is one big chore. He used to be this goofy guy who smiled and told jokes all the time, but I haven't seen the man smile in months. It's not like he's neglecting his duties as a husband and father, but he acts like it's just that, duties. Like hanging with the kids and me is a second job. I'm grateful for all he's doing, and he makes all of our lives so much easier, but it's like he's constantly on the clock and I think he might be depressed. I tried asking him if he was doing okay and he tells me he's doing fantastic, but I know he's not. That's the line he uses at work when customers try to make small talk and ask how he's doing. He doesn't take any time for himself. He doesn't take any breaks, he stopped playing games and stopped watching TV. He just does what I feel he thinks needs to be done and I don't know how to help him out. Our sex life has become one-sided. We do it frequently but only because I initiate frequently. Even if he doesn't seem in the mood he'll do it. Like it's his responsibility to make me happy. It feels like he isn't there in the moment, like his mind is wandering the whole time we're intimate, and that, to me, feels worse than getting rejected. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know how to help because he won't let me in. To anybody else he seems fine, but I know something is wrong and I don't know how to fix this. I miss my husband, the guy who complained, and told jokes. Not this robotic shell that looks like him. Comments were generally pointing out how hard the pandemic has been on everyone, that everyone lacks personal space and can't do activities they might otherwise enjoy. Comments also mentioned he mostly likely said he's fine because he doesn't want to burden OP, and that many men have been conditioned not to rely on others emotionally. Edit, alright, wow. I didn't expect this to blow up. I want to thank you all for your advice, I really appreciate it. It's clear to me now that my husband is overworked and burnt out. He comes home from work in a couple hours and I'm going to sit him down and talk to him. I'm going to tell him how I feel, and I hope that together we can find a solution that turns him back into the man he once was. I'm sorry if wasn't able to respond to everyone, but I want you all to know I read every comment and response. I'll post an update soon about how it goes. Bye. Update. Hey everybody, here's the update. I wrote this a couple days ago but couldn't post it because it was too soon. My husband came home at around 6 o'clock, and after he had something to eat I took him to the bedroom to talk. I sat him down on the bed and told him I was worried about him. I didn't know exactly how to phrase my worries, so I just showed him my original post. When he finished reading the post he started crying, like full-on crying. In all the years that I have known this man, I had never seen a tear roll down his eye. I held him for a few minutes until he could recompose himself, and he told me everything. He told me that the world was in a shitty place right now, and that we're bringing a child into a stressful time. He said when I became pregnant he felt he had to step up. He needed to take care of things because it was his responsibility. He said that the weight of carrying the family was so much harder than he anticipated, so he thought if he doubled down, he could get through it. But the more he tried, the darker the tunnel got, and eventually he couldn't see an end. He said that he feels like he's constantly drowning, and the only breath of fresh air is on the car ride between home and work. He said that sometimes the stress is so much that he throws up, but doesn't tell anyone and instead keeps going with his day. He then pulled out a pack of gum from his pocket and said, "This was for when it happens." I asked him why he couldn't tell me any of this, and he said he didn't want to burden me with the truth. He said that he thought if he told me everything, that I would stop seeing him as a protector and provider, and that I would inevitably stop loving him. Hearing him say that brought tears to my eyes because I didn't know where he got the notion I would feel that way. I asked him if he wanted to quit his job, but surprisingly he said the job doesn't bother him. He said the work in of itself was fine. It's just now he feels an added weight to provide because not only was he fortunate enough to keep his job in the pandemic, but we also had a kid on the way. He said that some days he feels like packing a suitcase and running to some tropical island for a week and not telling anyone. But then he feels guilty and doubles down even more. I told him that maybe he should go on a trip. I said that he deserved a break, and maybe if he did exactly that he'd feel better. He tried to protest, but I insisted. In the end said that he'll only go if we go together. Like a romantic getaway between spouses. Once things start to clear up and before the baby is due, he wants to take a week off from work, drop the kids off at grandma's house and have us go on a vacation. Just the two of us, like we used to when we first got married. He also said he wants to take the day off tomorrow and just sleep in, so that's the plan. I'll call his boss tomorrow and say that he's sick and can't come in. It's not like they'll make a sick man come into work. There's a pandemic going on. Right now he's playing with the kids and it doesn't feel like he's doing one of his chores. He actually seems to be enjoying himself. For the first time in months I don't see the robot, I see my husband. Most comments were positive. Edit, hey everyone, I want to thank you all for the support. I read all of your comments, and I appreciate all of you. I didn't expect this to get so much traction, so I want to clarify some things. First things first, my husband says hi. I wanted to clarify about the chores people are taking about. I want to say that I know as a som the bulk of chores goes to me. I cook and clean and do laundry because I know it's my responsibility. My husband's only chores are doing dishes, vacuuming every 3 days, and a few other house maintenance stuff. I did in fact call in sick for my husband, but I made sure that I said he had a migraine. I saw on Google that it wasn't a symptom of COVID if it was an isolated symptom. His boss was okay with it and said he can come back whenever he feels better. The pregnancy wasn't an accident. We both did want to have 3 kids because we were both raised in 3-kid families. We actively tried for the first 2, but for baby number 3 it was kind of a, if it happens, kind of thing. We're both happy with the amount of kids we have/will have and are hopefully done. We are not considering abortion nor adoption. We realize that a 1-week vacation isn't enough to get rid of his stress and are both trying to come up with a solution that alleviates his stress in a more sustainable way. Right now we're thinking about setting up an hour or 2 a day that's daddy's time. No kids, no me, no work. Just for him to relax. To those of you who think this fake, there isn't any way I can change your minds about this situation, so I'm not really too bothered. I just hope this never happens to you guys. You all have been supportive and really a wonderful bunch of people. I really think we can get through this, and it wouldn't have been possible without you guys. I'm not going to reply to comments because, like last time, it's an overwhelming amount. But just know I'm reading these as they come in. Good night everyone, it's been great. Stories number 9. Mom told my M28 wife, F27, not to include her in Mother's Day plans because her church is boycotting Mother's Day to put God first. TLDR, the pastor's wife of my mom's church said that too many women skip church on Mother's Day to go to breakfast, thus putting themselves before God. So when the church offered a Mother's Day luncheon after service instead of restaurants, Mom said she wouldn't attend any other holidays with our family unless we went to her church. My wife and I always take our moms to a restaurant on Mother's Day weekend with our 2 kids, and we'll sometimes do something fun afterwards such as a movie or hanging out in the backyard. However, things have been difficult for my mom since my father passed away some years ago, and it led to a relapse in drinking, that she stopped for some time when he was alive, along with some depression too. Things began to get better when one of her friends invited her to church, and she's attended for almost 2 years, which coincided with her dropping alcohol again along with improvements to her mental health, as she got more involved with midweek classes/church support groups. However, that came with some negative side effects that led to me putting up boundaries with her. My mom wasn't raised religious growing up, but she began to change upon going, which later led to me making this post. One of the earliest things she began doing was criticizing the radio in my car for not being Christian music, when driving her to doctor's appointments, something I ignored because driver picks the radio. But when she criticized my wife for not bringing our kids to her church's Sunday school, my wife told me, and I told Mom that while we're happy that church has helped her depression and cutting back on alcohol, we personally disagree with indoctrinating kids, but she didn't like my answer. She said I owed it to her to take them because her husband wasn't saved and wouldn't be in heaven with her, and she didn't want the same for her grandchildren. But when I held firm on my stance, she said I was failing as a parent before we eventually dropped it. But when she criticized my wife's parenting for almost an hour while at a Little League game for our son some months back, a game I wasn't present for that also made her cry, that led to us deciding to set boundaries and taking a break from driving/telling her about sporting events for our kids. Our decision was also based on Mom's newfound willingness to pester my wife, via text, about who she'd be voting for and why she'd be voting right for the first time after explaining how she wrongly voted left before going to church. My wife told her nicely that she didn't feel comfortable discussing politics, but Mom ignored her and continued telling her who she should vote for. That finally brings me to Mother's Day. When we set boundaries, we took a break from bringing her to our kids' sporting events, but decided to keep holiday gatherings, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Memorial, July 4th, etc., until she improved. But as of this weekend, Mom called my wife and told her that she didn't want to be included in Mother's Day activities because her church was boycotting Mother's Day after the pastor's wife spoke about how too many women skip church to go to breakfast when God should always come first no matter the holiday. So for that reason, her church was having a Mother's Day luncheon after service where they wanted mothers to invite their families to church for the holiday, and she wanted us to come with the kids to hear a message about mothers from God. But when my wife said she would talk to me about it, Mom criticized her for always having to ask me and said she needed to grow a spine, which I don't appreciate. She also told her that our kids needed to be in church and that she wouldn't spend other holidays with us unless we came, and I'm quite aggravated with her at the moment. So, in conclusion, here is my question. My wife thinks we should cut her off permanently, but I'm in charge of driving her to doctor's appointments along with getting her medication because she can't drive, so that makes it slightly complicated to cut her off since her health depends on us. She said she doesn't want a nurse or retirement home. But if it weren't for that, I'm right there with her. My wife offered the idea of only me keeping contact for the sole purpose of medication/doctors only, but she's also unsure and suggested counseling on the matter, and I'm open to doing that together. But as we're looking into counseling options, I wanted to ask Reddit in case anyone else is a caretaker for a difficult person and how to navigate when the relationship changes, and I appreciate any and all advice. Edit. 1 hour after making my post, it has already been worth it. Others suggested having my mom be driven to the doctor medications from church friends or an Uber, and I hadn't thought of that before this post. My wife has considered cutting her off in the past and blocking her, but changed her mind every time due to my mom being in a wheelchair and wanting to try and be the bigger person. She is now ready to block her and move on, and the only reason I didn't cut her off sooner was due to her being in a wheelchair until receiving suggestions to tell her to let church friends or an Uber drive her instead of us so we no longer have to tolerate it. Mom was never like this before Dad passed and she started going to church, but she kept harping on how she realized that her husband wouldn't be in heaven after getting saved herself, so she wanted her grandchildren to go to heaven and said we owed it to her to bring them to church. And when I told her we disagree with indoctrinating children, especially with how Christianity can screw with your mind if they ever want to come out in the future, she called me selfish among other things, and she seems to be driven from losing her husband. I think this church has become an unhealthy coping mechanism for her emotional trauma of losing her husband after she refused counseling for her depression when we suggested way back closer to Dad's passing. Here's what crazy though, her whole personality changed in under 2 years of going to that church and becoming a Christian. She's become fixated on hell and wanting our grandkids to go to church so that her grandkids would go to heaven and not be separated from her like Dad who died unsaved, and she even flipped her political parties too and became very outspoken about it when she used to hardly talk politics and was somewhat reserved. Update post. Some people asked what we ended up doing, so I wanted to provide an update for those who helped. But before I do, there's one thing I want to address. Many people asked why I didn't cut my mom out of our lives immediately after she made my wife cry at a baseball game, and I discussed cutting her off when it happened. However, my wife disagreed and said my mom needed support in 2 ways, seeing the kids and driving her shopping and to doctors/prescriptions. We set a boundary of no longer taking her to our kids' games, but my wife also said that her seeing the kids for holidays would help her overcome the loss of her husband, and she believed that losing access to their sporting events would make her change. However, the biggest reason my wife didn't want to cut her off is because she's a Christian too, and she was happy when my mom got saved and believed we should turn the cheek, despite the baseball incident, because God loved us when we didn't deserve it. So we agreed to just remove her from sporting events to see if she'd change. Personally, I'm not a Christian, but my wife and I think similarly. She despises how many Christians criticize gays and abortion and believes that God loves all people for who they are, and she said she'd be supportive if our kids came out too. That brings me to what happened since my original post. After my mom told my wife to grow a spine and stop bringing everything she suggests to me in unity, my wife reached her breaking point and wanted to officially cut her off. And thanks to helpful comments that told us how to have her prescriptions delivered and suggest having one of her church friends/Uber take her to doctors if she's going to continue verbally abusing my wife/family, I sat down with her and gave her those options, and she didn't like anything I had to say. She reiterated how I was failing my kids when I told her we wouldn't bring them to church for Mother's Day in exchange for her no longer spending time with our family as she threatened because family time isn't conditional. And when I asked how she could throw away who she was before Grandpa passed, she reiterated how she regretted accepting Christ before Grandpa passed and that he wasn't in heaven because of it. So when she told me that she didn't want me taking her shopping or to the doctor anymore, she said I wasn't her child anymore because I was preventing her from being around my kids. So she basically disowned me in hopes that I'd cave and bring my kids to church on Mother's Day coming up, and my wife and I have no plans to do so. It's been really hard the past few days since we spoke, but my wife supports our boundary and added one more reason why she hit her breaking point. During a recent argument between my wife and mom, my mom asked her why she wouldn't bring our kids to her church, or any church, at all when my wife is a Christian, and my wife told her that she hasn't attended any church since 2016 because church in America has changed in many places. The church my wife attended began becoming more political, even to the point of endorsing the 45th president from the pulpit during sermons and occasionally making comments about gays/abortion, and she believes that church is supposed to be about love and not hate like too many churches have forgotten since 2016. So for that reason, my wife simply reads her Bible at home and said she'll never enter a church again outside of a funeral because too many churches worship Trump instead of God, and my mom called her a fake Christian despite only being a Christian for 2 years since Grandpa died compared to my wife who's been a Christian for much longer. We plan to stay firm to our boundary on Mother's Day, but it honestly hurts to have been disowned. So if anyone has any suggestions about coping with that, I'd appreciate it. Although my wife has been supportive, and we're trying to figure out how to tell our kids that grandma likely won't be a part of our lives anymore, along with the importance of choosing religion, or not, for themselves, which is why we're making the boundary with grandma. So if anyone has any suggestions on how to speak to our kids too, we'd appreciate that as well. Comments. Commenter 1. Since your mom wants to boycott Mother's Day, then that means you get to spend it with the mother of your child and your MIL. As for her doctor appointments and prescriptions, you can arrange for an Uber and a prescription mail service. Although she's probably only in her 50s, so why can't she drive herself or arrange her own Uber? She's obviously getting herself to church. Commenter 2. Amazon has one of the larger mail-order prescription services out there, but most chain pharmacies now do medication delivery. You might not even have to switch pharmacies. Reply. I told her to in the past, and she's ready to this week. She's been more than understanding with her, and if not for my mom being in a wheelchair, I would have cut her out a long time ago, but never considered telling her to have an Uber or church friends drive her to the doctor/medications until making this post, so that removes that trepidation a lot. It just sucks how church helped her overcome her alcohol addiction, but hurt her in other ways. Commenter 3. Wheelchairs don't suck the asshole out of people, unfortunately, or we'd have people cutting off their legs for sainthood. It does suck how the Lord giveth and taketh away, but it's her decision to stay at that church and let them influence her. She's a grown woman who used to know different. But yeah, I've seen other people suggest her asking church people to run her errands. That's a good one, actually. A decent church that actually has a sense of community would do that. A church that's only there to indoctrinate and pass the plate won't. Either way, they'll gossip about what horrible people you are, but there's no hate like Christian love. Stories number 10. Aita, for breaking up with my girlfriend via Reddit. I made this Reddit account to address you. I won't put your name out there, but I know you regularly read posts like these since you used to bring them up and listen to podcasts with them. I'm sure you'll know it's about you when reading it. I 29 male caught my girlfriend 31 female cheating on me. This time, I have undeniable proof after she lied to my face about it. We've been friends for 5 years and started dating 3 years ago. I loved this woman with everything I had. I truly thought she felt the same. A few months ago, we hit a rough patch and argued a lot. I really thought we were going to break up. I hit rock bottom. I was severely depressed. One Saturday, we had plans to attend a wedding together. You live a fair distance away, and neither of us had a car, but we didn't mind taking the extra steps to make it work. That morning, I asked what time you'd be coming over so we could get ready and head out. I even offered to pay for your Uber. You said, okay. Hours went by. I didn't hear from you, and I started spiraling. I had a panic attack. I checked your location and it wasn't your house. It was some random parking lot. I messaged you. No reply. After a while, your location just turned off. I was worried sick. I kept calling. No answer for 6 hours. I was panicking. Then, at 9:30 p.m., note this time, you finally picked up. Your first words were, "Are you okay?" And I just broke down crying asking, "Are we okay?" You told me your phone died and that you were just out with your friends from school and I believed you. You'd never lied to me before, or so I thought. The next day, I couldn't even get out of bed. Depression hit me like a truck. You came over to comfort me. But something felt off. I tried to shake it off thinking maybe it was just in my head. The morning, I placed your Apple Watch on the charger. That's when I saw messages from you to your friend from school that you hung out with the day of the wedding. One said, "He was growling in my ear." Another said, "I had to cover up my hickeys like I was in school." Sent around 9:30, the exact time I was crying to you on the phone. When you got out of the bathroom, I saw the marks on your neck. When I asked, you said they were from scratching. On our way to work, I brought up the messages. You said you were lying to your friend. That you made it all up. I didn't believe you, but I swallowed it, and I swept it under the rug. Today, I was at your house as your family had a birthday party for you. Your family was there, some of your friends and our mutual friends too were there too. Including the one that celebrated you cheating and lying. The house was packed. I drank quite a bit because I knew I wasn't going to have the courage to do what I did. I went to your room to lie down in your bed, saying I didn't feel well. And after some time I told you I was going home and ordered an Uber. I'm in the Uber now typing this up, along with the iPad I gave you. While lying in your bed, I found it, and on it I didn't just find proof of you cheating, I found everything. The day you turned your location off, you were with the guy you play Call of Duty with. I'm mad at myself for not catching how often you played with him, and how you'd laugh at his jokes. I saw the messages, how you two talked for months, and how you planned a hotel meetup the day after he picked you up from work, how you kissed him in his car, how you told him we broke up, you sending a pic of the hickeys he gave you, and guess what, those messages. Sent at 9:45 p.m. the same time I was breaking down on the phone, and you were telling me everything was okay. How inconsiderate could you fucking be, hearing some you claimed you love cry on the phone, and while there you're texting your school friend and him about your infidelity. Speaking of the school friend, I saw conversations celebrating your decision to cheat and laughing about how you got away with it, gassing each other up for lying to me. And there are more shit I found. I found flirty messages with multiple Uber drivers. I found out the ring you said was from your late grandmother was actually from your ex-boyfriend. You wore it our entire relationship. I found messages to him too telling him you were single. That you will always love him. I saw more messages with your Call of Duty duo, with him saying very sexual things and you saying how nice that sounded. That was the same day I surprised you be coming over to your house for Thanksgiving. I found you sending sexy selfies to multiple men. Some of those pictures were from outing that we were out together. All this shit, and yet you talked about marrying me? You're a piece of shit. Normally, I'm not a petty person, but fuck it. By the time I press post, I will have already sent screenshots of everything to your friends, the ones who would be ashamed of you, to your family, the ones who would disown you, to your Call of Duty buddies, who knew nothing about your double life, to my family, to our friend group and to the shitty school friend who knew everything, smiled at my face at the party and is still there thinking everything is great. Every person who ever believed in us will know the truth. I've never been more disappointed in anyone in my entire life. You made this bed. Now lie in it. So Aita for exposing my no good cheating ass GF and breaking up with her via Reddit. Comments. Commenter 1. This is so petty, I love it. Hate you're going through this, OP. Lets us know when she texts you about this post. Commenter 2. LMAO right? You just know she's gonna read it and hit OP with a funny how you didn't say all that to my face text. I'll be waiting for the update too. Commenter 3. Good for you to let go and live the life you deserve. Whoever is your GF, may karma hit her in the future. Update. Many people requested me to update them on this story. I'm fairly new to Reddit so I believe this is how you do it. TLDR, I found my GF cheating with multiple people and sent the screenshots to her friends and family during her brother's birthday party. Thank you all for the overwhelming support and kind messages after my last post. If anyone's wondering, yes, I'm doing okay. Something just clicked while I was going through those messages. For the first time, I truly realized I'm worthy of love and that the first person who needs to give that love to me is me. Out of all the options I had in that moment, the one I chose felt like the smartest. If I had confronted her in private, she could have manipulated the narrative or gaslit me into doubting what I saw. If I had gone downstairs and made a scene, I would have been surrounded by her family and friends, which would have turned into a screaming match where I'm outnumbered. So I removed myself from the situation and let the truth unravel on its own. Just to clear a few things up. We both had our locations shared on iPhone. I wasn't stalking her. The sexy photos weren't nudes. And even still, I didn't send those pictures out, only the text conversations between her and the guys she was messaging. Sending those to people is wrong on another level and I would never stoop that low. After I left, I took an Uber home, grabbed a few things and went to stay at my friend's place for the night. I felt okay, but I thought that's just the adrenaline. I'm going to crash hard. I've already signed up for therapy, scheduled an STI test, and I'm planning to take boxing and pottery classes just to keep myself active and focused. While I was staying over, one of her Call of Duty friends messaged me. Turns out the guy she slept with has a wife and kid. I'm not sure how that situation is unfolding, but I hope his wife finds out. That friend also told me she's been removed from their squad. Our mutual friend group has shown a lot of support. One of them even removed her as a bridesmaid from their upcoming wedding, and blocked her entirely. I thought everything had finally calmed down until I came back home this morning. I had already blocked her on everything, so there was no way for her to reach me. Instead, she showed up. She drove her parents' car to my house and sat outside until she saw me. As I walked to my door, she came out crying hysterical, a messy mix of sadness and rage. I didn't say a word. Just walked inside and closed the door while she yelled from the other side until she eventually left. Nothing was mentioned about the Reddit post, so I guess she didn't see it. Later that day, her brother called me. He apologized on behalf of the family. He said everything seemed normal after I left until their mom checked her phone. She pulled my ex aside, trying to keep things quiet. But then her aunt, the one who talks a lot, shouted, "You're cheating on your boyfriend," in front of everyone. That blew the lid off. According to him, their family has a history with infidelity, and it caused serious pain in the past. So this incident not only reopened old wounds but more cheating scandals within the family were exposed that same night. This party was supposed to be a reconciliation moment for relatives who hadn't seen each other in years, and the friend who celebrated the cheating with her. She got cussed out so badly by the family that she left in tears. Her brother told me he doesn't blame me for anything. He even said I handled it better than most would have, and he's here if I need anything. Honestly, the only thing I feel bad about is unintentionally ripping apart a family that was trying to move forward. I had no idea all that was going on behind the scenes, and I do feel like an asshole for being the grenade that set it all off. Comments. Commenter 1. This is one of the first posts I've read where the cheater's friends and family seem to be acting appropriately. I'm sorry this happened, OP, but I'm glad you came out mostly unscathed. Best of luck. Commenter 2. Some people in this post could be in the r/order off Omar, props on her brother and the friend who removed her from being Mo. Commenter 3. If this is real, you only left one loose end. You said you hoped the wife of the guy she was cheating with finds out. Well, you can make sure by telling her yourself. She deserves to know just like you did. Reply, I don't know that guy's socials or anything. I can only trust that the group did, but you're right. Stories number 11. Aita for embarrassing my husband for saying I baby trapped him. Hi, this is a throwaway. To put it bluntly, me and my husband had a surprise baby while we were young. I was on long-term birth control at the time, implant in arm, and had to have it removed after we found out I was pregnant. Last week we were out for dinner with friends and he was making jokes and slipped in about how he thinks I baby trapped him. No reason for it, nothing to back up this crazy accusation, never mentioned it before, but I guess drunk words are sober thoughts. Our friends obviously looked a bit shocked and uncomfortable, especially when they saw my face. I asked my husband what the heck he was on about and he was saying how it was weird that we'd been sleeping together for 4 years and then I randomly got pregnant. I responded by asking him a flurry of questions like, oh, did I baby trapped you for your money? He and his family were broke, mine is well off, and, did I baby trap you for your house? We lived in one of my parents' properties at the time, did I baby trap you for your cars? He didn't have a license at that point, he didn't respond and then our friends changed the subject. He's been giving me basically the silent treatment ever since, only one word answers and only when I speak to him. By the way, since having our first we have been married for 3 years, bought a house, with my deposit, and had 2 more children. This completely caught me by surprise, but he really seems quite upset by this. I know it was cruel to embarrass him, but a common phrase in my area is, don't dish it out if you can't take it. Stories number 12. My neighbor rents his backyard for parties, it got out of hand, what should we do? Pretty much as the title states. My neighbor has been renting his backyard for parties but tonight got out of hand. We're in a decent neighborhood in NJ, USA, very quiet neighborhood, but this party had an estimated 350 to 450 people. Litter everywhere, cops called in from 5 separate townships to control it. Wrecking yards, property, everything. He stated he's still going to host but limit the amount of people further, we're just sick of it. We have people blocking driveways, mailboxes, it seems like there's nothing we can do. A couple of us talked it over and want to go to the township, or the company that hosts that app to kick him off of it. I'm sure he'll get a hefty couple of fines after tonight, but we're done with this crap, what are our options? Edit. I've been reading through all of these comments and will definitely collect evidence to use for this. Body cam footage, the pictures I took, etc. Edit 2. I will be bringing all evidence to the county government and gathering any footage, body cam or otherwise to them as well. We will also speak with our local fire marshal and see if there is anything he can do regarding fines or putting a lawful end to this. I appreciate all, I read every single comment and will read every single one being posted here. Any and all help/advice is greatly appreciated by all of us. Thank you everyone. Stories number 13. Aita for refusing to share part of my inheritance with my cousin even though we were raised like siblings. I, 33M, recently inherited a house from my grandfather. He passed away in January, and I was named the sole beneficiary in his will. Honestly, it wasn't a surprise. I was his primary caretaker for the last few years of his life, handling his appointments, paying his bills, and staying overnight when he got too weak to be alone. We were extremely close, and I really earned his trust. My cousin Jake, 34M, and I grew up like brothers. Our moms are siblings, and we lived just a few blocks apart. Same school district, same sports teams, even shared birthday parties. So, I get why the inheritance caught him off guard. But here's the kicker, Jake wasn't around. Not just in the last few years, but pretty much ever. He moved to another state, barely called my grandpa, and when he did visit, it always felt rushed, like he was checking a box. After the will was read, Jake called me up and said, I'm not mad, but I really think Grandpa meant for us both to have something. I told him I understood it was disappointing, but this was Grandpa's decision, and I wasn't going to question it. Then he said, well, don't you think it's fair to split it? You got a whole house. So I asked him flat out, would you have taken care of him? Cleaned up after him when he had accidents? Spent your weekends making sure he was comfortable and eating? He went quiet for a second, then replied, that's not the point. We're family. You know how close we were growing up. I just think it's sad that money is making you selfish. I said no, not because I'm greedy, but because this isn't just about money. It's about a lifetime of effort and the relationship we built. Grandpa and I earned our closeness, and I respected his wishes. Plus, I've got a lot of work to do on the house since it's older, and this inheritance is my only real financial boost. Now Jake's been telling our extended family that I'm cutting him out and hoarding Grandpa's legacy. A couple of cousins have chimed in with stuff like, you know he's struggling financially, or, would it really kill you to just give him something? My mom says I should ignore it, while my dad's disappointed that the family is fighting over this. I don't think I'm being unreasonable. But now I'm questioning if I should have just thrown him $10,000 or something to keep the peace. Stories number 14. My neighbor's daughter just told me I need to park in my driveway again. I either don't encounter many entitled people in my day or I am really good at ignoring people, but this one just took the cake lol. So I, 40F, just got my driveway replaced 2 days ago. Asphalt, not concrete. The contractor told me I could park my car on it again after 3 days. Google said 7 to 10. As much money as I spent on it, I decided to listen to Google. I live on a two-way, yet one, driving lane street. On my side, all of the houses are street level and have driveways, while the houses across the street are on a bit of a hill with steps leading up to them. The only street parking is on my side. Their side has a alleyway/service road behind them where those owners could park. A lot of them chose not to. They'd rather park in front of our houses. Not a big deal. I don't own the street and don't care who parks there as long as they aren't blocking me in. There are 2 spots, sedan-sized, between every driveway. I have been parking on the street in front of my own house for these 2 days now and plan to stay there for at least another 5. I did not park in the middle so that no other car can also park because I'm not an AH. One of my across the street neighbors has a daughter who is home from college. 19 maybe, ick. What I do know is she drives a SUV that is entirely too big and won't fit in front of my car without partially blocking the driveway of the neighbor next to me. I'm outside this morning watering my flowers minding my damn business and this girl comes over unannounced and uninvited. The conversion went like this. Entitled neighbor, no hello, no pleasantries, hey when are you moving your car? Me, excuse me, Ian, my truck can't fit with your car there. Me, looks over to my driveway that is clearly still roped off with yellow caution tape, I just got my driveway done. Ian, yeah I see that but it looks dry to me. My dad said asphalt doesn't take as long as concrete. Me, smiles and goes back to watering. Ian, you can park your car on it now. Me, takes a deep breath, clearly annoyed, drying and curing aren't exactly the same. I won't be parking on it for another few days. Ian, no you need to do it now. There's nowhere else for me to park. What am I supposed to do? This is where my eyes started to twitch because not this little girl telling me what I need to do. Me, through clenched teeth, what about your service road? Ian, my parents park back there. There's no room. Me, well, ick what to tell you. I wish you an ounce of luck slightly smiling face. Poor child turned a few shades of red and stomped back across the street. I am not one of those older millennials who thinks gens are all entitled babies, but WTH was that? Face with tears of joy. And in case you're wondering, IWFH, did all my grocery shopping and errand running a few days ago. I have no plans on leaving the house or my spot again at least until Wednesday. She'll just have to suffer smirking face. Edit, sorry if the formatting is off. I typed this on my phone. Sum of comments. Commenter 1, tell her she may have parked down the street and walk a little ways. Poor thing. Reply, I think that's what she's been doing but because it's Saturday, there were a lot of landscapers and their trucks on the street. I saw her circling a little while later waiting for someone to leave lol. Commenter, I'd make a point to park on the street for the rest of the summer smiling face with smiling eyes. Reply, my kinda petty. LOL. Commenter 2, and then every time you're asked about it, you gotta tell them it's still warm to the touch. Reply, and it's been raining a lot in PA. It's raining right now. Who's to say all the water isn't actually slowing the curing process down? I think to be safe I need to park on the street at least until August, smiley face. Commenter 3, can you park blocking your driveway since you're not using it anyway? That would solve the problem for both parties. Reply, I could and I even considered that before this conversation even happened. But as far as I know, legally you're not allowed to block your own driveway with a vehicle on a public street. Do I think anyone would actually enforce that? No. But I'm not doing her any favors now. Update post. Wow, okay so I didn't expect as many comments as I got lol. I also had no plans on doing any updates because I didn't think there would be one. First, just to address a couple things that came up constantly in the comments. Why don't you park blocking your own driveway so she can fit? I considered doing this the day the work was done but not because of her. She nor her spaceship ever crossed my mind. I was going to do it so that no one could attempt to use my driveway to do a 3-point turn. But I decided not to. Not to be vindictive. I just simply didn't think it was necessary. I genuinely didn't see an issue with me parking on the street. Also despite the arguing in the comments, in PA blocking a driveway, even your own is illegal. I live in a suburb where the PD has nothing better to do than just drive around. I don't actually believe they would enforce it or ticket me for it though unless they were truly bored. However, after that exchange, I wasn't going to do a single damn thing to accommodate her. If that makes me the entitled one, then I'll be that. Taking up one space in front of my own house seems, perfectly reasonable. You can park on it now, Google is being over the top. I actually agree 7 to 10 days is a little outlandish. However, my concern is my car sitting there for prolonged periods. If I were leaving every day for 8+ hours, I would be more inclined to start parking on it now. However, I really don't leave often for more than maybe 2 hours at a time a couple days a week. My car is a 2018 and only has 24k miles on it. I'm a homebody for real, lol. Also, my driveway previously was crumbling but also sinking in exactly where my tires lined up. Coincidence? I think not. I hope you have cameras. She's gonna vandalize your car. I do have cameras. In plain view. I also have a motion detection dash cam. But I am not too concerned about that. Like I said, it's a 7-year-old car that's been paid off for 2 years. If she's dumb enough to have to buy me a new one, that's on her. Also, her father is pretty high on our district's school board. I didn't go looking for that information. He told me that years ago. I don't think he would take too kindly to his daughter tanking his reputation over something so trivial. Lastly, thank you to everyone for all of the petty suggestions. I got a laugh out of those. I won't be buying a clunker to sit in front of my house until the dawn of time, but I appreciate the dedication. I hope that context helped because the update is not juicy at all. Earlier today, Sunday, I was outside on a video call with another contractor showing them my fence that needs replaced. My neighbor, the father, was also outside doing yard work. He waved and I gave him a polite smile and continued with my conversation. When he saw that I had hung up, he waved again to get my attention and came across the street. He started by asking me my version of events yesterday and I told him. He kind of looked mortified and just shook his head and mumbled, "That's her mother." He then proceeded to tell me how his daughter got all of his good traits and all of his wife's bad ones. I don't know what that meant and didn't really care. I will say that I have owned my house for 9 years and have never once had a single interaction with the wife. Only with him. She's never acknowledged me and I'm okay with that. He also cleared up a few things. She's 21 not 19, not that it matters. I just got that wrong. The Suburban she's driving isn't hers. If you live anywhere in PA you know we've had some pretty destructive storms over the last couple of months. Well, one of them claimed the daughter's normal-sized Hyundai by dropping a tree on it. She's renting the Suburban because she's going on a 6-week road trip with friends to California. Not the most fuel-efficient choice, but okay. The important part is she leaves next Saturday. He never sent her over here to say anything to me and didn't tell her about asphalt drying time with the intentions of her bringing it up to me. Apparently he was just making small talk about the work that was done because he was home that day and she wasn't. She brought up that I wasn't in my driveway and he told her why. He apologized and said he would have her do the same. I told him that wasn't necessary. I really don't want to interact with her again for any reason. He's now parking in front of my house so that she has room for her school bus behind their house. That's it. She's leaving on Saturday and while I am not leaving my car on the street until Christmas, I am still leaving it there until Wednesday. Be kind. Smiley face. Sum of comments. Commenter 1, you're too nice to those PPL. Reply, not sure nice is the word I would use, lol. I am just simply disinterested in more than the surface level high and by with them. I am very close to both of my neighbors on either side of me. They watch my house when I'm in Mexico. This interaction is maybe the 5th time total I have exchanged more than a few sentences with these specific neighbors in 9 years. I want to go back to that immediately, lol. Commenter 2, I can only imagine what it's going to be like on her road trip, if something similar happens and she can't park that beast of an SUV somewhere due to size, especially in CA. And the gas prices to fuel that thing? Face with tears of joy. Reply, the dad did mention that she feels like she made a mistake and should have gotten a smaller SUV but is too stubborn to take it back, lol. How can a 21-year-old rent a car? I guess I worded that incorrectly. She asked for and wanted a truck. The rental must be under the parents. He was telling me about her car being totaled and said, that's why she has that damn truck to begin with. Commenter 3, he came over, apologized and y'all had what sounds like a good talk. You still sound condescending. Reply, to Reddit. Sure. To my neighbor, no. I was very pleasant with him. I told him what happened, thanked him for his apology and told him to enjoy the rest of his day. I simply don't need or want anything more than that. We weren't close before and don't need to be now. I know this app is used to doormats and people pleasers. I am not that and I'm not going to apologize for not tripping over myself to move my car because the princess demanded it. Stories number 15. Aita for flirting with another girl after my girlfriend introduced me as a friend. Me, 28M, girlfriend, 29F, have been together for more than 2 years. We recently moved city, and she has started working in a new place 3 months ago. 2 days ago was an after-work get-together event at a bar with her coworkers, and she forgot her phone charger at home and her battery was low. I went to give her the extra power bank we have at home, as her phone uses the old USB type. As I went to her table to give it to her, one of her colleagues asked her who I am. Before I could say anything, she replied, "This is my friend, my name." He agreed to lend me the charger. I was a bit taken aback, and looked to her and said, "Friend?" She just laughed and said, "You are so funny, thank you for this," and waved to me, as in implying goodbye. One of the other colleagues asked me that if I was free, I can also join them, and I said why not, and I could sense the annoyance on my girlfriend's face. People were drinking, some talked to me and asked me questions, made conversation, what do I do, where did I grow up, etc. I should mention at this point that my girlfriend and most of her colleagues there were Chinese, and I am Indian. This becomes relevant later. Whenever someone would ask me anything related to how I met my girlfriend, she would pipe up to answer in a way that wasn't untrue, but completely omits any romance, giving the impression that we were just old friends. This kept bothering me, and I will admit I was getting pretty angry. Then one of the colleagues, who initially asked who I was, pretty drunk now, said, *GFS name never told us she had such a good-looking friend, and laughed. My GF also did a small polite laugh. I replied, I didn't know she had such a pretty colleague either, and winked at her, which made her laugh more, but my GF became visibly upset. Another colleague said to my GF, "Seems like you are an expert Cupid." My GF was turning red, and I was also feeling slightly uncomfortable, so after a bit more chit-chat I made an excuse and said I got to go. The colleague said I should get her number from my girlfriend, and then I left. Now, when she came back she refused to talk to me, and yesterday she angrily told me that I had, kind of, cheated on her, and hurt her badly. I replied that although what I did was hurtful, she also needs to own up that introducing me as, just a friend, was hurtful. She refuses to acknowledge it as wrong, saying that she is just socially awkward, and she thought that her colleagues might react weirdly to her dating an Indian guy, as they all are dating white or other Chinese people. Her reasoning is that it is a lot of explanation and questions regarding interracial dating, and she just wanted to avoid all that. I don't buy it. I feel she just wanted to hide the fact that she is dating me. We are at an impasse. I refuse to apologize till she sees that what she did was wrong, and she thinks she did not do anything wrong, and I was mean. Top comments. Commenter 1, absolutely NTA. Your girlfriend essentially erased your relationship to her new friends. New friends, I might add, who clearly didn't give a toss about your ethnicity. Your judgment was right. She just didn't want to admit she was dating you. Sorry, but that's a deal breaker. Commenter 2, NTA. Your girlfriend introduced you as, just a friend, after 2 years together. That's hurtful. Flirting back was petty, but understandable. She can't hide the relationship and expect you to act like her boyfriend in front of people she's hiding you from. You both need to talk honestly about why she's ashamed to acknowledge you. Commenter 3, NTA, but you're not going to recover from this, because the incident clearly demonstrates the kind of relationship you have. She's ashamed of you, socially. She'll keep you a secret, and you're not going to be able to progress in terms of commitment. If she's ashamed of calling you boyfriend, do you think she'll be willing to call you fiancé or husband? Commenter 4, NTA. The major red flag is her refusing to accept her own fault. Being socially awkward doesn't mean introducing your boyfriend of 2 years as just a friend, and being bothered to answer questions about interracial dating is just an excuse. That can be easily solved by drawing boundaries. And it doesn't seem as if she's the only one dating a foreigner. Some of her friends are too. Honestly, it's better to have a deep and honest conversation about this, as there seems to be a lot to unpack. If you, kind of, cheated according to her, then by that same logic she basically called your relationship quits. Update, Aita for flirting with another girl after my girlfriend introduced me as a friend. Thank you all for your responses and advice on my previous post. The last 3 days were a whirlwind. TLDR, we had a fight, I moved out. Writing this from a friend's house who will let me stay till I find a place. To answer some questions people had, in the work friend group that day there were 3 guys as well. I did not publicly correct her because saving face is quite important for her. She would have had a literal panic attack if I had done that. On Friday we talked. I admitted I was petty, but I was also hurt from her introduction as a friend. She broke down. At work they have a group chat where they share memes, and it gave her the impression that they hate Indian people. She did not want to become the topic of jokes, so she had planned to introduce me slowly to the group, as a friend, and after they start liking me, reveal that we are dating. This had backfired badly because I started talking to them last week before she was ready, and she got anxious and went into autopilot mode to support her initial lie that I was a friend. She felt helpless, guilty and hurt when they found me acceptable and cool and I started flirting. Why did she not tell me all this earlier? She felt that it would make me dislike her coworkers who are otherwise, actually nice people, and I would feel bad that she works with them. I asked her if I could see that group chat. I wanted to make sure this was the reason and not a work crush as many suggested. Almost 1/3 of the older memes they shared were Indians dirty uncivilized or Indians horny creeps, etc. Y'all know, they are plenty on IG. There were also some about Southeast Asians, all mostly posted by one guy and one girl, others would just laugh, react or do a one-liner. I scrolled back to an old message by my ex, GF to one of these memes. She had said, "I have an Indian friend, he is pretty nice actually." Someone had replied, "You found one of the clean ones," to a bunch of laugh reacts. There were also some recent messages after they met me, but I didn't bother read and translate it all. I realized that although she liked my personality and looks, she was never very interested in my language or culture. Since I started dating her, I got an HSK3, can cook most Chinese dishes perfectly, know all about her region, but holy will come and go without her still knowing what holy is. I felt hurt by how those kinds of jokes weren't a big enough deal for her. I asked her why she never said anything to them about these jokes. She said this is the kind of reaction why she didn't tell me before. She feels like a relationship is private and it is not a part of who she is as a person, especially at work, so she saw no reason to create tension. I feel she just means I am not worth it. I asked her point blank if she would have preferred if I was not Indian. She said it would have made her life easier. That stung me. I packed some clothes and went to a friend's house. I don't even know how to write about my feelings even now, but I felt very hurt, as if my trust was completely broken by her. My friend is going on vacation and will let me stay at his place while I find a new one. Today I went to get my other belongings, and she was crying a lot. She says she does not understand why something so minor can make me break up and throw away a good thing. She says she loves me, and if it is so important she will change her workplace. I told her I will need to think about things, but I cannot be with her right now. My brain honestly feels like a jumble right now. I know that I feel hurt but having a hard time articulating what are the things that hurt me. Top comments. Comment 1. It's interesting that she feels that erasing a whole part of who you are is something so minor. She wasn't proud of you. Didn't defend you. Didn't have courage to call you hers publicly, so she loses all the goodness that you are. OP, I'm proud of you for choosing yourself and holding the line. It would be easy to just try to get past this, but you're honoring your worth. Your ex can find an easier partner more aligned with her ingrained racism. In the meantime, you're going to go on kicking goals in life. Commenter 2, bruh. This is not minor. She is Delulu if she thinks their racism and her own is minor. You were absolutely right to break things off with her. Do not ever consider getting back with her. Racism should be a deal breaker. End of story. Commenter 3, I mean, she's in a den of racists and was too weak to be a good person for months. She was willing to be going out for drinks friends with racists when she had an Indian boyfriend. Not to mention that she keeps doing this in multiple situations, presumably because she's not willing to be publicly in a relationship with you. She's ashamed of your race ethnicity, as it reflects poorly on her and her worldview. She sucks. Commenter 4, good for you, OP. You are standing strong in a very hurtful situation and I'm so sorry you're going through this. The fact she said you're breaking up over something minor really tells you all you need to know going forward. There is nothing minor about this. At some point in your future this was going to come out. The fact she told you that her life would be easier if you weren't Indian is heartbreaking to read. I cannot imagine how hurtful this is for you. I seriously cannot wrap my head around how she can even consider this as minor. How will she feel about and treat your future children? She really needs to wake the hell up and consider what she's thinking and saying to you. You have made the right decision for your future. Good luck as you look for your own home. Your soulmate is out there for you. I wish you nothing but the best in all you do. Stories number 16. Would it be a bad idea to wear a fake ankle tag to prove a point? I, 16M, recently got my first phone from my parents. They told me that one of the conditions for having it was that I have to share my location with them at all times. This feels like an invasion of my privacy, but they insist that it's just for my safety. I'm very responsible, I get good grades, I have never sneaked out, this doesn't feel reasonable to me. I have tried having calm conversations about it, and I have pointed out that I always tell them where I'm going, but they are holding firm. I don't actually have an issue with them knowing where I am, but the idea of them knowing where I am instantly just through looking up my phone makes me uncomfortable. I have an idea for how to express how I feel about it. I plan to buy a novelty prisoner costume for the ankle tag, roll up my leg to show the tag, and tell them this is a symbolic representation of how I feel over the location tracking. Luckily I saw the kind of costume I'm looking for in a shop. The ankle tag is plastic, has a blinking red light and straps around your ankle with Velcro. It's super fake looking, but perfect for what I want to say, but I don't know if this is a good idea. I want to make a point but I'm not sure how they will react. Am I just being disrespectful or could this be a good idea? I just want to hear others' thoughts. TLDR, my parents are making me share my phone location 24/7. I want to protest by wearing a fake ankle tag at breakfast to make a point. Not sure if it's clever or too much. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I'm on your parents' side. When our daughter starts driving, that will be a requirement for her until she becomes an adult. Parents worry about their kids 24/7. What they are demanding is not unreasonable, you're still a teen. Their house, their rules. Not to mention they are paying for the phone. Reply, I just wish they would be willing to make some kind of compromise. I have told them why it bothers me and I have listened to their view as well. Like I said, I don't have an issue with the idea of them knowing where I am. The way they're doing it just makes me feel like they don't trust me when I've never given them a reason not to. Commenter 2, I can sympathize, it may not be trust, it's like worry. Like I said, parents worry about kids non-stop and that is not an exaggeration. What's your compromise? Reply, I would be happy to text them and tell them where I'm going if it's not somewhere they expect in advance. They would still know where I am, but it would be because I told them. Commenter 2, it's not the same. Again, what they are demanding is not unreasonable. Commenter 3, it's a safety thing. It's their phone that they pay for that they let you have. The real reason you got it in the first place wasn't because you're such a good boy, it's so that you can call your parents if you end up in a sketchy or dangerous situation. The location tracking is for the same reason. Basically, from a parent, don't be a jerk about it, enjoy your new phone, it was a gift, and yeah, you have to share your location. Or you could just go back to not having a phone. Reply, I will admit probably the best protest would be to just give the phone back for that reason. I do accept that they paid for the phone, so it's their right to make this demand. I just wish they could agree to some kind of middle ground, like if I just text them where I am from time to time. It's the feeling they don't trust me that bothers me, I guess. Commenter 3, it's not really about trusting or not trusting you, it's about not trusting everyone who is not you. I guarantee most of your friends share their location with their parents. I can probably also guarantee that they lie to their friends about it to seem cool. Update. Hi everyone, I decided to write an update in case anyone is curious about what I did. You can see my last post if you click my profile. In short, my parents said that me sharing their location with them was a requirement for me to have a phone. I plan to buy a prisoner outfit from a novelty costume shop for the fake ankle tag, and wear that as a symbolic protest. A lot of people gave me good advice telling me that it would be immature and not make them change their minds. So I decided to be the bigger person. Instead of demanding they change the rules, I would instead choose the other option, which was to just not have a phone anymore. I put the phone back in its box, rehearsed what I was going to say, and then went to my parents after dinner. I told them I appreciated the phone, but that I'd rather not have a phone than feel constantly watched, and I handed it back to them. It did not go well. At first they laughed, but then my mom was very blunt with me. She said that they gave it to me as a gift because she thought it would make me feel like an adult who was responsible enough for a phone, but that it was for her peace of mind. She said I had only recently started to leave the house by myself and it was making her worry sick, and that she wanted me to not have a phone at all at first, but thought having my location made it worth it. I had wanted a phone for a while because all my friends do, and she thought giving me a phone would solve all our problems, and she didn't expect me to make such an issue of the location tracking. And she said she regretted framing it as a choice, but that she said it that way because she didn't want to hurt my feelings and also didn't expect me to do this. She got upset, and then my dad was angry at me for upsetting my mom. He told me I was being ungrateful, and that I clearly wasn't ready for the kind of responsibility that came with owning a phone if I couldn't even handle something as basic as letting us know where you are. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to be difficult, I just didn't like the feeling of being watched all the time, but it didn't matter. The mood had totally shifted. They sent me upstairs. About an hour later, they called me back down. They then gave the phone back to me, but said they had re-evaluated it. I then discovered this means the phone was now heavily locked down. I basically can't do anything on it anymore other than call or text them and my friends. They deleted all my social media apps and put a password on the App Store so I can't download them again. Location sharing is still on, but they now check to make sure it's in my backpack before I leave the house. Now if I want to use Reddit and such, I have to use my laptop. It's like I have the downside of having a phone but with none of the upsides now. I told them that I wish I had gone with my first plan instead, wearing a fake ankle tag, and they said they wish I had done that because it would have been the funniest thing they had ever seen. As a joke, they renamed my phone in Find My as Ankle Monitor, I obviously get they're trying to be tongue-in-cheek, but it feels like it's at my expense. Now I just wish I had never brought any of this up to begin with. If anyone has any ideas on what I should do now, then please let me know, because it feels like I can't win. Pensive face. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, take your lumps. Apologize. Wearing the costume was never going to work. The comments in your previous post said your ankle bracelet idea was immature. Also look at it this way, if your parents jokingly wore prison guard uniforms to drive their point home to you, would that make you have more respect for them? So you're surprised at their reaction? They love you, and sometimes that means boundaries. Boundaries that can be opened up if you go along with them and give them peace of mind. The mature thing to do would have been to accept their rules and request to renegotiate at a later date. That shows maturity. It shows you recognize that trust has to be earned and maintained. Because it always will be. What makes you so special to not have to go through that? Forget the good grades and behavior, they gave you an expensive phone. They are going to want to make sure they can find it if you innocently lose it. So it isn't all about you, per se. But you're important to them. So learn from this and do better. Reply, I realized the costume idea was immature, which is why I didn't do it. I handed the phone back, but they wouldn't take it. Now I feel like they are being vindictive by locking the phone down while forcing me to have it in the first place. Am I misunderstanding their intent? Commenter 2, kinda, yeah. The phone isn't optional. You are 16 and wandering around alone. You need a phone, in case your car breaks down or you get lost or you're going to be late or whatever. It's not safe for you to be out without parents and without a phone. Adults carry a phone when they leave the house, for safety, so the phone isn't optional. They tried to let you be a mostly adult about it, and you refused. You behaved immaturely, and insisted that this whole situation had to happen on your terms. So now they can't trust you to act like an adult with a phone, so you get treated like a kid with a phone, because the phone isn't optional. If you want to fix this, start acting like an adult. Reply, I disagree that I was being immature by trying to hand the phone back. But I have taken the time to digest what everyone has said to me here, and I think I've accepted I was wrong to make a big deal of this. I have tried to think of situations where having the phone's location would help, but where me simply texting them wouldn't. I could think of a few, like if the phone itself was lost somewhere. I think the reason why it's bothering me is simply because I feel I have no choice over it. But when I'm older and have my own phone plan, then I can choose to stop sharing my location if it's something I still object to at that point. I decided to talk to my parents once again about this, and I raised that point to them. They agreed and said I'm right and it would be my choice, but even when I'm an adult they would still worry about me. We hugged and there is no tension in the house anymore. I think I learned from this experience that I don't like seeing my parents as enemies. I think the conclusion I've come to is that the tool itself isn't good or bad, but how it's used. It can be used to be controlling, but if it's not being used in that way then it's harmless. I feel really silly for making an issue out of something that didn't need to be one. Stories number 17. Is she cheating or am I going insane? A few months ago, I installed a security camera outside our front door primarily for safety, prompted by a shooting in our neighborhood. It wasn't installed out of suspicion towards my wife. About a week ago, my wife came home from work and casually mentioned taking public transit, which is a common mode of transport for her, along with occasional Uber rides if she works very late. I didn't think anything of it at the time. The next day, while reviewing the camera footage, I was looking to see if a package was dropped off. I saw the video of her arrival from the previous night. The camera captures our front door and part of the street. It showed her walking up to the door, pausing to look across the street, smiling and waving as a car pulled away, and then entering the house. It strongly suggested she had been dropped off. I casually asked her if she had taken an Uber home the night before. She initially insisted she had taken transit. When I mentioned the camera footage, she shifted, suggesting maybe it was an Uber and she had forgotten. Sensing something was off, I jokingly asked if she typically waved goodbye to Uber drivers from our doorstep as they waited for her to get inside. This led to further hesitation before she finally admitted it was a coworker. The coworker is a man she has previously mentioned in passing when talking about work or a project she is involved in, who had dropped her off after they both worked late. Naturally, I felt really off. Her story went from transit to maybe Uber I forgot to actually a coworker. I asked if that was the first time he drops her off. She said yes. I pointed out how unusual it seemed to forget being dropped off for the very first time by a coworker, especially when it wasn't her usual routine. This is when she became defensive, accusing me of calling her a liar and claiming it was just an honest mistake due to being tired. While I tried to accept this, I couldn't shake the feeling that her reaction and multiple explanations were illogical. Unable to let it go, I reviewed the camera footage from the week prior. What I discovered, she had been dropped off by the same car multiple times that week alone. Expanding my search to the past month's recordings, as they reset monthly, I found this scenario repeated 2 to 3 times a week. I also discovered instances where the same car picked her up in the morning, specifically on days when I had left for work early. I confronted her again, stating that the footage showed frequent occurrences of her being dropped off by the same car. She looked like a deer in headlights when I said that. She downplayed it again, saying it was just her coworker and I was making a big deal out of nothing. I explained that the hiding and lying about it were what was concerning, not necessarily the act of being dropped off. Why the secrecy if it was innocent? She became defensive again, attempting to turn it back on me by suggesting my checking the footage was obsessive and paranoid. After an hour-long argument, she finally agreed that yeah, it was weird, I guess, that she hadn't mentioned it. I asked her directly if there was anything romantic or inappropriate going on with this coworker. She denied it, calling me crazy. We have an open phone policy, though I've never felt the need to use it until this point. I asked to see her phone, and she handed it over. I looked through messages and found nothing that seemed suspicious or indicative of an affair with this coworker. Despite this, I still have trouble believing her. Her initial lies, the shiftiness, the attempt to blame me for being suspicious, and the eventual half-admission have eroded my trust. I also noticed that since the day I found out about the coworker dropping her off, the coworker has completely stopped dropping her off or picking her up, based on the camera footage. To me, this looks like she warned him or tipped him off on my suspicions. Maybe even meeting further away from the house where the camera can't see. I can't let this go, but I am also confused because, outside of this specific issue and her weird behavior when confronted, I haven't noticed the typical signs associated with infidelity. She isn't secretive with her phone, she hasn't become distant, and her general behavior hasn't changed in ways that would make me question her fidelity. We are both incredibly busy with demanding jobs and a 3-year-old and 1-year-old who keep us on our toes, which naturally limits our time together as a couple, but there hasn't been a shift in our dynamic that raised red flags before this. I feel like I'm going insane and I am really struggling to find a logical explanation for this behavior that does not lead to the conclusion that she is cheating on me. I can't discuss this with friends without feeling like I am making her look bad. I'm turning to anonymous help, hoping for some perspective on whether my reaction is warranted or if I am letting paranoia take over. Update: my suspicions have been confirmed. This morning she had a later start to her day. This is not unusual, so I left for work before her. But after dropping the kids off at childcare, instead of driving to work, I came back home and parked farther up the street to avoid being seen. When she eventually left the house, she walked up the street and turned onto the main road where she usually catches public transit. I followed at a distance and saw her getting into his car that was parked there. Up until then, I had held on to a hope that she may have felt uncomfortable about these pickups/drop-offs after our conversation, and that she might have found a way to politely end them. But now, seeing her deliberately walk around the corner to meet his car, out of view of our camera, has confirmed that at the very least, my wife is actively collaborating with another man to conceal their interactions from me, her husband. A faithful partner would never need to do something like this. I am heartbroken and shaking with rage, but I won't say anything to her. I am going to hire a PI to find out the full extent of their relationship and then proceed from there. Thank you to everyone who offered their advice. Last update: affair confirmed. I wanted to share that I have confirmed the affair. I waited outside her office building and saw her leave around 12:30 p.m. with him. They went across the street to get food, then drove to a nearby park and stayed in his car. They ate lunch and chatted, laughed, and made out. Not just kissed. They sat in the car and made out like fucking teenagers. I took a video. Then, they left and went back to work. I don't know how I stopped myself from approaching them and attacking him then and there. The thought of doing something rash and losing my children is probably what stopped me. I am now home and struggling to process what I saw. I feel completely devastated and a profound sense of loss for our family, our children's sense of security, and my own self-worth. I have never felt so completely hopeless in my life before. I will keep it together and move forward for the sake of my children because they are innocent in all of this. I am currently contacting divorce attorneys and scheduling initial consultations. I do not plan to confront my wife about what I saw until I am advised by an attorney. I will keep my distance until then. The volume of responses and attention my posts have received is incredibly overwhelming. While I am grateful for the support, reading comments and different opinions while processing the betrayal is too much right now. I will delete my account, but will leave my posts up so I can review the advice later when I am in a calmer headspace. At this moment, I am unable to make significant decisions and will rely on legal advice from an attorney to guide me through the next steps. Stories number 18. Aita for locking up my food and toiletries so my roommate would stop using them. So I, 25F, live with a roommate, 26F, let's call her Jess. We've been living together for about 8 months now, and from the start, she's been kind of a moocher. I'm talking about constantly using my stuff, my shampoo, my conditioner, my body wash, my snacks, my frozen meals, my freaking perfume. I've mentioned it several times, always politely, and she always says something like, "Oh sorry." I'll stop, and then never does. It got to a point where I'd go to take a shower and realize everything I bought was nearly empty. Same thing with groceries. I'd come home from my part-time job excited to eat something specific I bought and it would already be gone. After trying to talk to her several times with no real change, I finally got fed up and took action. I bought a mini fridge for my room and started keeping my groceries in there. I also got a small cabinet with a lock where I keep all my bathroom stuff. Yes, it's annoying, but I was literally wasting money on things I never got to use. Jess lost her mind. She said I was creating a hostile living environment and that I was treating her like a thief. I calmly told her this was the only way I could actually have access to the things I pay for. She said it was insulting and immature and that I should have just trusted her to stop. Now a couple of our mutual friends are saying I should have just kept communicating instead of going full prison warden, and that it's passive-aggressive. But honestly, I feel like I was left with no choice. So, am I the asshole? Stories number 19. I'm 24F, thinking of leaving my husband, 30M, after 4 years of marriage. He doesn't contribute to chores around the house, and plays games for hours every day. I have to remind him to do basic things like shower, chores, etc. I've told him multiple times that I don't want to parent him, and he'll do better for a day or two and then go right back to it. He only has 2 chores: dishes and trash. And we have a dishwasher. The problem is that he's neglected them for so long that we now have a fruit fly infestation and have to call pest control to come deal with it. I know I should have done something before it got this bad, but he kept reassuring me it would get done. He's also incredibly impulsive and spends money he knows we don't have. I'm between jobs at the moment, and won't have any pay until July. I've also tried to communicate about this, but he shuts down when I try to talk to him about things that bother me. There's some other reasons, but these are the big ones. They've only recently become an issue in the last year or two. He's likely got undiagnosed ADHD. I can see the symptoms and know that these problems are an issue because of the ADHD. I also have ADHD, and use coping strategies to deal with it. I've suggested coping strategies for him, but he says it won't work and won't even try. Him shutting down when I try to communicate with him means that I can't talk to him. He refuses to talk to me until I bottle it all up and explode, which he claims reinforces him not talking to me. I've suggested marriage counseling, which he claims we don't need. I do love him, a lot. But these problems are weighing me down so much that I feel depressed over it. I blew up again today, and called him lazy and basically told him he wasn't allowed to play games until he finished his chores and the flies were taken care of. Which makes me feel like I'm parenting him again. I don't want to leave him, but I'm not sure what else to do at this point. What would you guys suggest? TLDR, my husband makes me parent him and won't talk to me about our problems, and also refuses any professional help. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, what the hell was he doing before you got married? Who cleaned his house? Who reminded him to take showers? Reply, this has only been an issue for the last year or two. He's just stopped caring, I guess. Commenter 2, protect your birth control. You'll be less likely to leave if you get pregnant. Commenter 3, having ADHD is not an excuse for this behavior. I have combined but primarily inattentive ADHD and I can't be medicated due to long QT syndrome, but I am still accountable for my actions. I work hard every damn day to function. Am I exhausted? Yes. Do I feel like giving up some days? Yes, but I have a responsibility to keep shared space clean, tidy and livable alongside my husband and child. The same for your husband, he too is accountable for his actions and has responsibilities. Update. So I guess things are going to go for the better. In my last post, I broke down some of my husband's behavior and how it's likely linked to undiagnosed ADHD. Several people suggested leaving him. Some things I left out of my last post that now seem relevant. I am disabled and often use a wheelchair or cane to manage my symptoms. I have a hard time bathing and dressing myself. I am occasionally reliant on the help of others. Part of why he neglects himself and chores is because he works a full-time job and has to help me. These weren't issues until my health began to deteriorate. Some of his behavior is rooted in PTSD from a highly abusive relationship. I packed a suitcase and was getting ready to leave and stay with family when my husband came home. He saw the suitcase, asked what was going on, and we had an actual conversation. No avoidance or shutting down. He apologized, said he understood, and that he'd like a chance to fix things. He set alarms on his phone to remind himself to do chores, etc. He Googled ways to manage ADHD without medication and called his doctor to set up an appointment to talk about getting evaluated for ADHD and PTSD. He called our church to set up some marriage counseling. And he started cleaning without me asking. All things he hadn't done before, even when I begged. I think seeing the suitcase and realizing that I was really planning on leaving helped. Maybe I'm wrong and this is just his attempt before it gets worse again, but I think he's actually trying this time. Am I wrong to be hopeful here? TLDR, my husband seems to be making efforts to mend our marriage, but I'm not sure it'll last. ETA, I didn't add my disabled status to the first post for a few reasons. I just don't like talking about it. My disability is nobody's business. He only helps me for about 15 or maybe 30 minutes a day, and they're low-effort tasks as well. I didn't think I deserved less effort in a relationship because I'm disabled. Unfortunately, some of you seem to think I do deserve less. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, the disabled part is huge and changes the entire story. My dad had to care for my mom and 4 kids under 18 and then all of us had to help care for my mom because she got early onset Parkinson's disease. Our house was a pit. Nobody has energy to go to work 40 hours a week or go to school for 30 hours a week and care for another person. All any of us did, when things got really bad, was pray she'd fall asleep so we could also sleep or watch TV. Caring for someone is a full-time job and I'm not sure what country you live in but most places make it so that in-home care and assisted living are beyond our reach. It's not a person's fault, it's society's fault for not being set up to support us. If he works at a job and as a caregiver I'd cut him some slack. Commenter 2, leaving out from her original post that he's having to act as a caregiver for OP seems deliberately deceptive. Reply, he doesn't have to do that much. Basically, make sure I don't fall asleep and drown in the tub and help me get clothes on if I'm having a symptomatic day. I didn't think that being disabled was relevant since I don't require a lot of help. I function pretty well on my own, and him helping me takes 15 or maybe 30 minutes out of the day. I don't ask him to do much else. Commenter 3, so if he's struggling with unmedicated ADHD and PTSD, and full-time work, and caring for his disabled wife, don't you realize he was already really struggling and now you put a whole load more stuff on his plate for him to crumble under? You have to ask. What does he get in return? Is there any enjoyment in his life, if all he has are these pressures? I read your post and feel that you got what you wanted and he got even less than he had. I could be wrong, but that's how it seems to me. If you do decide to stay with him, you gotta make sure it's also worth it for him. An equitable partnership. Commenter 4, I highly doubt OP will address this question, which tells us all we need to know. Reply, he gets home-cooked meals, dates, love, etc. I do 95% of the housework, and the few things that are his responsibility are things he decided would be his responsibility. He gets time to play games, as I'm not against them entirely. He spends time out with friends when he wants, doing basically whatever he wants to do. He gets a lot in return from our relationship. It's never 50-50. Some days are 80-20, but who's giving the 80 changes? I support him through whatever dreams and aspirations he has, which change almost daily. I have good and bad days, which means there are plenty of days that I don't seem disabled at all and don't need help. Assuming I'm the villain because I'm disabled and didn't feel like telling a bunch of strangers all about my medical issues is entitled and inherently ableist. Does OOP work? Reply, I work as much as I'm able to based on my health. It changes from week to week. Sometimes it's only 20 hours, other times it's 60. We average about the same amount of work weekly. And we had agreed that if I'm too disabled to work full-time one week, I also don't have to stress myself out and make my symptoms worse by adding on even more housework than I already do. My husband isn't the sole breadwinner. I usually make more than he does, depending on how much I'm able to work in a given week. Does OOP schedule appointments due to her husband's undiagnosed ADHD and PTSD? Reply, I scheduled all his doctor's appointments. I'm the one who is told about family events because he won't take note. When I've already offered to set up counseling and he refused it, saying it was unnecessary, he should be responsible for showing initiative. And he didn't ask me to set up counseling. I didn't know he had talked to them until after because he was trying to take initiative and show that our relationship is important. Stories number 20. AITA for lying about my income to avoid rent. AITA for lying to my parents, MNF 50s, about how much money I, F23, make so I don't have to pay them as much for rent. To give context, after college I moved back into my parents and have been here for 8 months. Since graduating college my parents have taken a sum of my income starting at 20%. After a couple months I was expected to pay the Parent Plus loan, $510 monthly. A couple more months my car payment was added, $300 monthly. All of this I think is fair and I have no issue with except for the fact I had to quit my job in March. I was expecting to live in a college area after I graduated but due to outside circumstances I could not get a place. This led to me living home and having a 2-hour commute. After a few months I had to toss in the towel and quit because it was nearly costing money to have the job. During this time my parents had slowly increased my rent to 40% of my income from more expenses. When I was unemployed my parents instead took $200 as well as the loan money. Car money was added once I got a new job. This absolutely destroyed my savings to the point I've gained thousands in credit card debt to keep up with life and expenses needed to apply for jobs. Eventually I got a job. This is where I may be an but I lied to my parents and hide 40% of my income in an account they can't see. If they question why there's a lack of money I may say I had 20 to 30% automatically put in savings. I just need to leave this living situation. It's a family of 5 with 2.5 bath, living with family 24/7, limited freedoms, but most importantly feeling a crushing sensation of being trapped here. I understand that my parents have had lives that made them not great with money and there are debts to be paid. In reality paying for loans and my car payment isn't horrible and I expect it. I just keep doing math and see how if I lived with someone I could have a 2-bed 1-bath for the same price. The rent they also say goes to food and electricity, we don't pay for water, so that makes sense a bit. Am I being an for hiding the full amount I earn so I can save up to move out? Edit, just adding extra information to clear up some common questions. The total monthly payment is $750, rent, plus $300, car, plus $510, PPL. I asked for an itemized list of the 40% but I was told it wasn't needed and they said it's what they felt was right. With that I can only assume basic rent, electric, food, and some smaller stuff. I pay for 1/3 of my meals by myself, I pay for my own gas, and car maintenance. I also can't move out right now due to having very little savings. Stories number 21. Aita for finally standing up to my sister-in-law after years of her trashing my success. I really don't even know how to start this. I'm just tired. I'm 22. I got married young to a great guy, 27, who's been nothing but supportive of me. We live in a small town, nothing fancy, but I've worked my ass off to get where I am. I just finished my degree while holding down 2 part-time jobs. I didn't come from money. I didn't have a safety net. Every win I've had I earned it. But somehow, that's a problem for his sister. Ever since we got engaged, she's been low-key mocking everything I do. Like, if I mention anything good, oh wow, you think that's impressive? Or, not everyone needs to prove themselves 24/7. I try to brush it off, but it stings. She's 31, single, still lives at home, hasn't worked in years, and somehow I'm the one with the ego? She once told my husband in front of me that I try too hard to look accomplished, and that real women don't need trophies to feel good about themselves. What the hell does that even mean? I stayed quiet for so long. Too long. The last straw. We were at his mom's birthday dinner. I brought dessert, something I baked because I love baking and it's one of the few things that actually helps my anxiety. She took one bite, looked me dead in the eye, and said, overachieving again, huh? What's next? A 5-page essay on how to cut strawberries. I snapped. I told her to knock it off. That I'm done pretending it doesn't bother me. That just because she's insecure doesn't mean she gets to drag me down with her. That I'm proud of what I've done and I'm not gonna shrink myself to make her feel more comfortable. She rolled her eyes and said I was making a scene. My MIL went quiet. My husband looked uncomfortable. No one defended me. We left early. Now my husband says he understands, but I could have said it in a kinder way. That maybe I embarrassed her. I'm sorry, but like, why does no one care how embarrassed I've felt for the past 3 years? I've taken all her comments, swallowed every insult, kept the peace. And now I'm the problem because I finally spoke up. I keep replaying the moment in my head. Maybe I did go too far. Maybe I should have just let it slide again. But I'm so damn tired of shrinking. So now I'm wondering. Stories number 22. My grandmother is subtly transphobic, so I'm going all out. Like the title says, my grandmother is transphobic, but she shows it in a way where at first glance you'd think I'm overreacting. I'm 18, and 8 months on testosterone. I'm at the point where I get clocked as a cis man 99% of the time, much to my joy. My grandmother has made attempts to intentionally deadname me. She intentionally pauses and puts more power to her voice when using the dead name, as well as misgendering me, but my parents shut that down. I know this is intentional because I've been out since I was 13, and she is very aware of the LGBTQ community. She also consistently tries to push me to use the women's room, which would make everyone in there, as well as myself, uncomfortable. My final straw happened today. She got my little sister a blue towel with shark/fish, as blue is her favorite color, for an upcoming water park trip. I didn't go shopping with them, and when they came back, my grandmother proudly handed me a pink towel with smiley face flowers all over it, knowing I hate pink and won't use that towel. It feels important to note that I would use any other towel, so long as it's not that style, as it's clearly designed for little girls. Now for my revenge. I convinced her to take me to a pride festival in a few days. I'm going to be wearing a mesh top so my trans tape is visible, using a small amount of dye to make my facial hair pop, and I'm going to be doing my eyeshadow as the trans flag, as well as wearing my trans flag as a cape of sorts. It may not seem like much to some people, but this is my way of showing her that I will not be silenced. I feel that this is a very justified decision, and it makes me really excited to even think of doing this because it's a very powerful moment in my life as a trans man. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. As someone with all sorts of phobic family members, I need to know how the heck you convinced this woman to take you to a pride festival. Reply. I'm graduating high school this week, so she wants to celebrate. I just gushed about the event and how even my sibling would enjoy it. Sibling gave me permission to add that fact, and eventually she caved. Commenter 2. Please have a backup ride plan just in case. Stay safe and have fun out there, smiley face. Commenter 3. Is there any redeeming value to hanging out with your grandma? If she hurts you this way, I feel like your family should support you in not exposing you to her. That is, they should protect you by giving you the option not to visit her. Reply. Unfortunately, my family won't let me cut her off completely. Does OOP really want to keep their grandmother in their life? Reply. She's currently in possession of my college fund, so I can't cut her out of my life at the moment. Commenter 4. Kind of obvious what she's doing if everyone knows you dislike pink. What a shitty situation. Have you ever sat down with her and talked about both of your feeling about your transition? There must be a lot she wants to say. Transitions affect everyone around them and not just the individual. Also, just putting it out there that pink is not a strictly feminine color. I'm a guy and enjoy pink, and the smiley face flowers sound like a 70s vibe, which is dope. Reply. I hate it because early in my transition they would force me to wear pink, so now whenever they give me something of that color it's just uncomfortable. I don't mind the color itself, it's more the memories associated with it. Update. So, a few things happened. We went to the festival, we were allowed to be topless, so I wore a sweater, but had it unzipped, trans tape on full display. Grandmother kept giving me dirty looks, but not saying anything to me. Then it happened. My grandma took my sister and grandpa, and they abandoned me there, 2 hours away from home. But I made sure to plan with friends of mine so they were up there too, and I had a safe way home. Regardless, I had a great time. I made sure she saw me as happy as I've ever been while she was there, taking selfies with drag queens/kings, making friends. There was no shame anywhere in that event. My dad is very upset with grandma, and is probably going to talk to her later on in the evening. Overall, the event was nothing short of absolutely phenomenal, even if grandma ditched me, but that's on her. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. This is actually fucked. Like, everyone has relatives whose beliefs are extremely different and disagreed on. Liberal, Republican, whatever. Arguments at dinner. Agreed upon topics to never be talked about for the sake of peace in the family. Sure. Grandma's angry because grandchild is trans, so, justifyingly so, her logic is to abandon their family at a festival 2 hours away from home. What the actual hell? Leaving a family member. Especially a young family member at a loud, crowded, chaotic space. Completely disregarding how dangerous it is, and contempt at abandoning someone from your safety because of contrary beliefs. This is actually disgusting. And shame on Grandpa too for going along with it. Reply. Grandpa is a people pleaser. He was really hesitant to leave. Grandma grabbed his arm and made him come. I don't blame him. I know he loves me. He makes it very clear. It's only Grandma who decided to abandon me. Downvoted commenter. I'm not transphobic and am thinking maybe it was more disapproval for being slightly ho-ish. I could definitely be wrong, but my grandma would probably care more about that than it being LGBTQ related. Especially considering she came to the festival with you. Definitely an ass for leaving you though. Reply. My sibling was in a crop top and short shorts. I was in pants and an open sweater with trans tape. Everything was covered up. She's always been subtly transphobic in one way or another with me ever since I came out. This was purely because I was being very open about being trans in public and she didn't like it. Commenter 2. At which point did she leave? After how many time? And was it clear you got friends that would get you home? I mean, I don't know how old your grandma is, but depending on age and health. My kid's grandma from age 70 couldn't do this. A 2-hour drive, so much loud music, so many people, so much going on. At least that's what pride parades are in Belgium. I would never even ask her on her age, that would be selfish. If she thought it would be a rather quiet festival, this might have come as a shock, just on that moment that she said yes to supporting you. Reply, she's willingly gone to loud concerts before, less than a year ago actually, and no, she didn't know if I had a ride, she knew the parade would be loud. She left about an HR in, made it seem like she'd meet me by the parking lot, then dipped. Was OOP's grandmother uncomfortable with taking them to the event? Reply, no, she agreed to take me, knowing that it was a pride-based event. Someone commented the link to my original post somewhere in the comments, read that then come back, it should make more sense then. Stories number 23. Aita for not cooking fancier meals. I'm the only one who cooks in our house. It's just 4 of us, my husband, me and my daughter and little brother. My husband is 27 and I'm 25. My husband barely knows how to make eggs, even though I've tried to talk to him constantly about learning how to cook. My daughter and brother are still in elementary school, so they only help me cook. The responsibility falls on me and it's honestly exhausting. So, I just set up a system in my head. It's easy. For breakfast it's just something with eggs or cereal. Lunch is some sort of sandwich, burger, or leftovers. Dinner is the meal I usually plan, but I have like 10 dishes I repeat. Sometimes I'll go off, especially Sunday, but generally I stay because it's easier for me mentally. Well, one day I made just pasta Alfredo with chicken, and as we were eating, my husband mentions that it would be nice if I made fancier dishes. I asked him what he meant and he explained he wants me to change things up, add some more meat dishes and variety. Next time, we went out shopping and I was putting ingredients I don't usually buy into the cart. As the ingredients started piling up, my husband was getting all puffy and upset. We got to the meat aisle and I started picking out beef, and that's when my husband lost it and started taking things out of the cart, saying that we can't afford my fancy living. I blinked at him and tried to explain that he was the one who asked for variety and different dishes, so I'm buying different ingredients. He rolled his eyes and told me that I'm being dramatic. I just let him do his thing, taking out most of the ingredients out. The next week, I made the same dishes because that's all I had ingredients for. A week passed and my husband was all pouting that I made fried rice again and that he's sick of chicken. When I pointed out that he took out all the beef out of our cart, he blew up on me again and said I'm being an asshole because he doesn't know how to cook. Notable comments. Commenter 1. The thing that bothers me is that he complains about something then gets angry when you try to do what he wants. When you point that out, he gets angry at you. It sounds like he just wants to be angry at you. It's so bizarre. NTA Curly, Sue 99. She let him get away with not cooking and that went to his head and he got entitled. Next time OP needs to nip any unfairness like that in the bud right away so it doesn't get this far. He's a father of a child, not knowing how to cook isn't a thing anymore. If you're a single person, sure, but that excuse no longer applies when you have mouths to feed. Commenter 2. NTA. I would stop cooking for His Grace, the Duke of Minimum Effort, for a while. Possibly forever. Just feed yourself and your kids. Your foods aren't good enough for Sir requireth all, so why bother? Reginald expecting ton 3 can learn to cook for himself, unless he is mentally impaired somehow. Tell him that you are very excited to taste his beef Wellingtons and nicely seared halibuts. I absolutely despise people who are about as useful as a handful of dirt, yet act all entitled and shit on people who take care of them. Husband of 42 years here with a word for your man. Son, grow up and help with your family. Learn to cook. It ain't difficult to do the basics. Cooking is fun, creative, rewarding, and might save your marriage. That and quit being an ass. Some of the comments. I mean, he's a big boy engineer and is really smart. I don't think he has a learning disability. He's a mama's boy and I realized I just kinda allowed this behavior to continue. He's the oldest of 8 boys and his mom is a boy-mom type. So I had to teach him how to take care of himself after we got married, and now the last challenge is cooking. Yes, I work part-time from home. I don't mind cooking honestly, and he does everything else. He does laundry mostly, we both clean the house equally. He grew up with a boy mom, and it's been taking me the past 4 years of our relationship to kinda unravel that. We're minimal contact because she berates me for not making him a big lunch and doing his laundry. Their relationship is so strange. He's going through therapy right now and we're on minimal contact with her. She constantly harasses me like I'm competition. His father is a deadbeat and his therapist explained that his mother might be subconsciously using my husband as a stand-in. I wouldn't recommend this situation to anyone, but I really do love my husband, so I'm happy to work through this. So it took a bit of talking to him before he confessed that he heard his best friend talk about how they have steak a few times a week. My husband is upset because he would like to eat like that but knows we can't afford it right now. He also said that he's stressed from some house issues that happened recently. We bought a house last year and the furnace had to be replaced a few months ago, for example. He's been handling all these problems and I honestly didn't even realize he's been so stressed. Not that it justifies his actions of course, and I told him so. Update: I'm still in shock at the way that post blew up. I honestly was just to prove a point to my husband, and that post definitely did that and more. So when I showed him the post, he was shocked. Angry for a minute but then read a few comments, then turned off his phone and acted like it didn't bother him. He didn't talk to me for the rest of the evening and at night, I woke up to see him reading the comments again but just went back to sleep. I didn't mention it and the next morning, he was still not really talking much. That evening for dinner when we sat at the table, he finally brought up the post. He asked me if I agreed with what the comments said. I just shrugged and said that yes, I agreed with some. He was quiet after that and while we were cleaning up, he apologized for his behavior. Then a few days later, he asked if we could start making dinner together every night. It was a bumpy road at first but honestly after a week, we started enjoying it and now a few weeks later he's gotten much better and even made a few meals himself. The reason behind his behavior, he admitted, was because his mother has been trying to contact him lately. It's been stressing him out and one time when she called him, she started talking trash about me, what else is new, and kept mentioning that I'm not feeding him well enough, that he was much happier when he was eating her food. Honestly I don't even know what she was trying to do. My husband apologized for it and said that he likes my cooking but let her words get to him. He is talking to his therapist about all this. That's really it. A lot of people asked for the update or for his reaction lol but there wasn't much. He handled it a lot better than I hoped. He even started joking about some of the comments a few weeks ago and it's become somewhat of an inside joke. Thank you Reddit for helping us through this haha. Life is good, hope you all have a good dinner tonight. Some of the comments by OOP. I should have specified that we were already very low contact because of how toxic she is. He had her blocked but she got another number and contacted him again. He did admit he should have blocked her right away but he's figuring that out with his therapist. There was no logic lol just him lashing out in frustration with everything. It's not that easy because she disapproves of anything I do. She hates how I'm raising our child. She claims that she's my child's favorite person which is far from the truth. When she was in our life, she was always making sure I take care of her baby. She hated my healthy dishes and always brought over lots of bread and dried dishes full of carbs because I'm trying to starve my husband. It's literally just that I make balanced meals. She would toss out the food I made if I wasn't there. And I could go on and on about how she treated me in public. It's exhausting, it put a strain on our marriage, my husband was lost and didn't know what to do. Life is much more peaceful when she's out of it. Stories number 24. Aita for leaving a family group chat about my MIL after being excluded for 2 days and watching everyone suddenly act like they care. My husband and I have been together for 12 years, married for 7. For the past year and a half, he's been the sole caregiver for his mom, who has early dementia. He stepped up completely bathing her, dressing her, changing her, managing her meds, all of it. I work full-time to support both of us so he could focus on her full-time. It's been emotionally, physically, and mentally exhausting especially for him. He is one of 6 kids, and they all live within 30 minutes. Not a single one helped. Not once. It was just him and his dad, day in and day out, while the rest of the family ghosted. Well, her condition recently progressed and she had to be placed in a care home. Suddenly, everyone comes out of the woodwork like they've been involved this whole time. One sister-in-law made a big, family group chat, called Sweet Mama D, and sent this dramatic message like, "Hey everyone. Mama D has been placed in a home, so let's all continue being there for her. This is also a space to share memories and support each other." Excuse me. Continue. Nobody but my husband and his dad have been there. What are y'all continuing exactly? And to make it worse I wasn't even included in the group chat. But people from other states and even literal 13-year-old cousins were added. My husband knew I wasn't in it but I said let's just give it a few days. Well during those 2 days they continued adding others, just not me. After 2 days my husband added me, I immediately left the group. When asked why, I told them plainly, we gave it 2 days. Nobody thought to add me or even mention me. At this point, I don't want to be in it. Now I'm being told I'm childish and making this about me, but I'm sorry. I was there. Every single day. Supporting my husband while he broke down watching his mom lose herself. And now that she's in a home, these people want to play loving family and post old photos like they've been in the trenches too. So Aita for leaving the group chat and being over it? Or are they just mad because I didn't pretend along with the group hug energy? Edit. My husband and me were in bed sitting right next to each other when the group chat started and I was like, I didn't get that message. He looked and was like, if you didn't get added. So I said let's give it a few days because it's a lot going on right now, and after 2 days she added some more people and that's when he added me. I was at work and saw I was added by him and left because I didn't want to be in it at that point. My sister-in-law made the chat and was the person adding everyone. Her husband is one of the siblings. Stories number 25. My mom says that it's an issue for my dad that my pajama shorts ride up in my sleep. I, F18, have my own room in my family's house. It's summer here currently, and it gets very hot at night while I sleep. My mom bought me these cute pajamas that I love a couple weeks ago, but they're a little big, as most pajamas are, and the shorts are a bit loose. I wear underwear, no bra, beneath my pajamas. I am not completely naked. When I sleep, I tend to toss and turn and roll around a lot, causing the PJS to ride up a little. My dad now refuses to step into my room at all because he can see my underwear when my shorts ride up. My mom says it's inappropriate. She says this about everything, including walking back to my room from the shower in a towel, or her opening the door to my room and seeing me changing. I feel like these are all very normal activities and don't think it's weird or inappropriate at all. He's my dad. He raised me. He changed me as a kid. He bathed me. The fuck? She's making me super uncomfortable with these comments and it makes me feel sexualized by my own parents. It's gross. On top of everything, mom is telling me I have to wear more clothes to bed, and I am a little sad because I love these pajamas so much. I'm autistic and have a lot of sensory issues, but these are so soft and keep me cool at night. I haven't found other pajamas that feel so comfy. And she's literally the one who bought them for me as a gift. I didn't ask for them, sad face. I got a little upset about it and my mom just pushed it way too far. Saying stuff like, that's how people get molested, and mentioning that it's very dangerous especially once I go to college. What if someone peeks in your dorm while you're sleeping? Honestly, I want to know, AIO. Is this normal? Am I being weird about it? Stories number 26. My MIL landscaped our entire garden while dog sitting for a week. What do I do? My husband, 35M, and I, 29F, went on holiday for a week and just got back tonight. My in-laws stayed at our house and looked after our dog for us while we were away. We got back tonight to find that MIL has completely changed our garden without our consent while we've been gone. We have a smallish paved garden with some raised flower beds, a couple of trees and some nice flowers and bushes. Most were left by previous owners and we've cared for them the best we can, weeded, laid wood chip and kept the garden tidy. While we've been away, an entire tree on the right-hand side has been removed and is now just a stump, with new shrubs and flowers planted in its place. My roses, which I enjoyed caring for, have been cut to a stump with nothing left, the trellis completely bare. The two other trees have been cut back dramatically, all their flowers and buds are gone, the huge flowers on one bush have been cut off, and the garden feels very exposed and barren. The tree that was cut to a stump flowered beautifully in summer and attracted lots of butterflies, and I'm big on biodiversity so that was so sad, and the roses I'm devastated about as my uncle was helping me care for them. Various other jobs have been done like cutting a small patch of grass we have at the back, and jet washing the paving slabs, which I'm grateful for. It's important to note, nothing like this was discussed before we left, we only asked MIL and FIL to care for our dog, nothing more. MIL mentioned patching some missing sealant on the windows of our shed for us, that was all. I really struggle with anxiety and needing to be in control and I've been sobbing this evening. I'm devastated. MIL is asleep and FIL is staying out of it. I'm sleeping downstairs with our dog because I can't stand to be away from her either. It's 3 a.m. but I can't sleep. What do I do? Am I right to be upset? I'm certain their intentions were good, but I feel like this is an enormous overstep and I'm really upset. Some of the comments. If her husband knew about this, he had no idea, he was as blindsided as I was. I can't quite believe it. They're very caring people so I know this wasn't done maliciously but it's crazy to me. That's actually so good to hear, thank you. I'm definitely not a gardener but I loved seeing the roses come back each year and they're this lovely yellow and orange color so I really hope they can come back again. Definitely not malicious, she gets so carried away though with keeping busy and I know she just got so overexcited and just kept going. Why my FIL didn't step in I have no idea though. The tree was small, definitely not big enough to damage our house, only 2 to 3 meters at most but still a tree and not just a little sapling. It wouldn't have needed a tree removal service or anything, but I don't know how two people in their 70s managed to cut it down to the stump with what I assume was just a handsaw. All FIL said before we went to bed was that they thought the tree was rotting, I'm certain it wasn't, so they cut it down. Still no text or call to tell us or ask though. I could never do it to someone else so it's hard to rationalize. And when it goes hand in hand with doing something actually thoughtful and nice like changing our bed and doing our washing, which she also did, I feel like it's harder to stand your ground on the thing that upset you. I do have issues with my mental health, but it's managed with medication, and I have been to therapy several times in the past. Given that I'd returned home at 1 a.m. to this after a long day and turbulent flight without any notice, I don't think crying and feeling devastated is an overreaction, but it's all relative, I guess. It wasn't just about the plants, it was the feeling of not being able to control something that happened to my home. Others have told me to go no contact with my MIL and kick her out screaming, which I'd argue is much more disproportionate. Update. Thank you to everyone who left comments on my original post. It was really helpful to see everyone acknowledging that this was an overstep and suggesting that my husband lead on the conversation. To answer some questions, I think the tree was a buddleia, which I think is usually a bush, but it was quite mature and had a trunk about 8 inches wide and was around 2/3 meters tall and very much looked like a tree. Sorry if I gave the impression it was like a huge tree that required a tree surgeon, but it wasn't a tiny bush either. It was still a task to chop it down, and they didn't hire anyone, they did it themselves. Thank you for all the suggestions about tree law, I've learned something new. Thank you to all that said the roses might be salvageable. They are literally a stump only 3 inches tall, but I'll try the blood and bone mixture to promote growth and try to bring them back. MIL has done things like this before, but not to this extreme. She gets bored and one thing leads to another, and you can tell part of her knows she's gone too far, but she tries to justify it anyway. It's well known in the family that MIL can't sit still and finds jobs to do to be helpful, but to my knowledge she hasn't done anything this big before. Now for the update. In the morning my husband spoke to MIL alone and laid out how this was really inappropriate for her to make changes to our garden without permission or even notification. He said she offered some explanations as to why she did it, but did acknowledge it wasn't right to go ahead and cut down trees without asking. He posed the question many of you suggested of how would she feel if we looked after her home and repainted a room, or chopped a tree down in her garden, or removed a fence. I think that made her realize. He asked her to speak to me directly and apologize, as I said to him I needed an apology and for her to acknowledge that what she did was wrong. Later MIL spoke to me privately and said she was sorry I was so upset by the garden, and I said thank you. Her explanation for the tree is that she was doing some pruning, didn't ask her to but anyway, and when she trimmed the branches they were black inside. They went to a garden center and got advice and were told it was this kind of bug infestation. MIL is adamant she was being bitten by whatever bug it is as well. I don't know, the tree was green and healthy looking to me. Anyway, at no point did they speak to us despite going to all this trouble, then they decided to just chop it down since it was infested. She did at least say the words, I know we should have called you or asked. Then I said, and the roses? I loved those and my uncle was helping me keep them going, and she said the dog had been chewing on them. Bear in mind these are in a raised bed she'd have to jump up at to get to, and apparently she yelped and hurt herself on the thorns. So obviously the logical conclusion isn't to keep an eye on the puppy, a 4-month-old lab, but to chop down the flowering roses. That was the end of that discussion, but later in the day she and FIL went to a garden center to try to replace both the buddleia and the roses but couldn't find the right kind. They have said that if we find the plants we want they will buy them for us so we can replace them. Things are civil again. I'm still hurt and I hate how my garden looks, especially since other trees and flowering bushes were cut so far back all the color is gone. It feels very exposed and like a new build/showroom garden before any character is added, but I can't make the plants regrow and replanting the tree would mean removing the stump they left, so I CBA. Personally I will never allow MIL and FIL to be alone in my house again, and they will not be asked to look after our dog unless it's at their own home. I do have a generally good relationship with both MIL and FIL and they are generous and kind people, but this lack of respecting boundaries has been an ongoing issue especially since we got our house, which they did a huge amount of work on with us and for which I'm extremely grateful. I do however feel like this contributes to how they view the house and garden as a project and not as our home, despite the fact we have lived in the finished house for 2 years now, and might be why they thought it was no big deal to go around messing with our garden. My husband has been on my side throughout this and took us all, me, him and the dog, out for a Sunday roast today to cheer us up. He's upset with his parents as well and has done his best to make me feel better and validate my feelings. He's the best. Some of the comments by OOP. Everyone in the family is certain MIL has undiagnosed ADHD and we have raised it to her multiple times, sincerely and sometimes jokingly, but she won't entertain it. She has a fairly old-fashioned view on mental health and neurodivergence, so I don't think she will ever recognize it in herself. This is why I say I don't think she is acting maliciously, just without understanding or recognition for how it might affect others. I'm not a professional, so I don't feel right giving her an armchair diagnosis in a Reddit post, which is why I tried to explain it as she can't sit still, but yes, it's most likely ADHD. Both my husband and I suspect we may be neurodivergent as well, and I have been professionally assessed for autism but not diagnosed, so I do appreciate the mental whiplash that realization can bring. I think that's hard to get across when you don't know her. I don't think the non-apology was done deliberately or because she's a narcissist or anything. She could have just as easily said, "Sorry I upset you," but it came out the other way. She's definitely an actions speak louder than words person, and she does show affection through gifts and spending money, so I do think that was a serious peace offering with the garden center. It pissed me off initially, I won't lie, but the acknowledgement that she should have called was more meaningful because she admitted wrongdoing. Unfortunately, that's the closest I know I'll get to acknowledgement of my feelings and an apology. She's terrible at open discussions and will show her remorse in other ways. I probably do sound like a doormat. I just value my peace, and I'd rather quietly resolve to never leave them alone in my home again than to have a big drawn-out argument that other family members hear about, etc. The acknowledgement that she should have called us was more than I thought we'd get, tbh. It'll do for now, but it was a wake-up call for sure. Stories number 27. Aita for refusing to support my older daughter, 22, dating her younger sister's, 19, ex-boyfriend, and asking her to move out because of it. This has been tearing our family apart, and I need to know if I'm being unreasonable. My younger daughter, now 19, dated a boy throughout high school, her first love and her first for everything. They were together for 3 years. When he broke up with her, it devastated her. What made it worse was how he handled it. A week later, he asked her if a girl in her class was single because he thought she was cute. He was dismissive of her feelings and incredibly disrespectful. This is the type of guy he has always been. I never liked how he treated her at all, so I was relieved when it ended. Unfortunately, over the years, they continued hooking up on and off. He would tell her she was the only, insert last name, he'd ever want to be with. An obvious red flag that was ignored. At the same time, I noticed my older daughter, 22, who has always struggled socially and never had a boyfriend, started hanging out with my son and his group of friends, which included the ex, the group that my younger daughter would still hang out with from time to time. In that group were girls that my younger daughter trusted and thought were her friends. At first I was supportive. She was finally putting herself out there and doing things so far out of her comfort zone. Her anxiety had prevented her from being able to go to grocery stores alone, order from restaurants, and even answering phones. Friendships have also been difficult. She is a very needy friend and relies heavily on help from her friends in social situations. She has spent so many years just hanging out in her room, on her phone and laptop, that her actually interacting with real people was so good to see. But my oldest daughter began purposefully excluding her sister, leaving her out of plans with that group, speaking poorly about her sisters to them and acting cold. I could see that she was changing her personality to fit in, buying a skidoo so that she could go snowmobiling with those friends. She even bought a $600 skidoo helmet because it was the same one the ex had. She kept dropping the ex's name into conversation in ways that made me uncomfortable. I even asked her, "You know he's off limits, right?" She said yes. But I couldn't shake the feeling. Then a few months later, I was at a get-together with some longtime friends, some women who were in my wedding, and the ex's mother was also there. She started talking to me about my older daughter in a way that made it crystal clear they were involved. And that she approved. I was devastated and stunned, unsure what to do next. It was just a gut feeling. I needed to know for sure. So the next night, I went to talk to one of those long-term friends who was close with the ex's mother, and after quite a few beverages, she confirmed it. She said my older daughter and the ex had been seeing each other, and she didn't think it was a big deal. She even told me that my older daughter was lucky to have him because she isn't the type of girl who gets to choose a guy, she's the type of girl who gets chosen by a guy. That crushed me. There was a time when they were my closest friends, and they'd known and said nothing. The next day, I texted both her and her sister/my friend, also a bridesmaid, godmother, and part of our lives for decades, and asked if they knew anything. I was giving them the opportunity to answer the question instead of offering up the information. They both denied it. I knew they were lying to protect the ex's mother, who they were closer to than me now. That betrayal hurt more than I can describe. Somehow, word must have gotten back to my older daughter that I was suspicious. She came to me and admitted she had feelings for the ex and had for a while. She said his mother had known for a while and supported it. I told her this was absolutely not a good idea, that this would devastate her sister. Her response? That she thought dating him would actually bring her closer with her sister, because she would stop excluding her. I couldn't believe I had to explain why this was such a painful and inappropriate situation. I explained that her sister had a deep emotional history with him, and a not too distant history, and that pursuing a relationship with him would break her. I told her that when she sees him, she should only think of him as off limits. Admittedly, I used very graphic language to describe why. She promised to stop. She said she hadn't realized how much it would affect her sister, that she did not know how much pain he had caused her younger sister, which speaks volumes of her as a sister. She said that her new group of friends, not exactly the most high-quality people, had convinced her it was fine because it was just a high school thing, and this kind of thing happens all the time. I told her to be very careful with friends like that. People who think that way would turn on you in heartbeat and have total disregard for her feelings if it meant doing something they wanted to do. She promised that she would shut it down, but a couple months later, she told me she was planning on officially dating him. I cried. I was disgusted, disappointed, and heartbroken. I told her she had to tell her sister immediately and that she needed to understand I would be supporting her sister first and foremost. That whatever happened next was on her. She said that she understood and that she would do whatever she had to do to heal the hurt that she knew she was causing. As expected, it crushed my younger daughter. She was blindsided. I took her to my best friend's house to talk it out. My best friend agrees that this relationship is completely inappropriate. My daughter needed to hear it from someone other than me. My older daughter decided to go out to party with the ex and those kids, which included my son. My younger daughter then told me even more upsetting details about the ex. I messaged my older daughter, told her everything I'd just learned, including that he had been active on dating apps while seeing her. I told her everything, not leaving anything to misinterpretation. I then told her not to come home that night because her sister wasn't ready to see her. When she and my son came back the next day, I could barely look at them. I was especially angry at my son for not being a good brother, for knowing about it all and saying nothing. I told him he should have told his older sister that if she did not tell the younger sister what was going on, then he would, and he should have told the ex to stop until things were out in the open. But the ex has a lot of influence with that group of kids and they are mainly sheep. It seems everyone just follows along with what he wants. My son lashed out. He always reacts in anger when he knows that he is in the wrong, saying it was our younger daughter's fault for continuing to be involved with the ex after they broke up. That was the final straw. I told both of them that anyone who supported this relationship or kept it a secret wasn't welcome in our home until my younger daughter said she was okay with it. This included my son's girlfriend of 2 years who is best friends with my older daughter. I told them that it was completely up to them how things in our family would look moving forward, that they held all power and that they were in complete control of the narrative, and I begged them to protect their younger sister's name. That night, I had a long, emotional conversation with my older daughter. She cried and seemed genuinely sorry. I thought I was getting through to her. The next day, she went out again with those people. She returned smug, believing that she has done nothing wrong and saying that she deserves to be happy. The narrative that she was forming with others was based on half-truths to make herself look like the victim. She did not protect her sister's name like she had promised. This has fractured our family. The narrative that my oldest daughter and son are spinning about the situation / our reaction to it has destroyed friendships that I've had for over 30 years. I am in complete disbelief that no one is speaking out against it, but are comfortable saying that we are horrible parents to our oldest daughter and that we are bullying her, as per the narrative of my oldest daughter, because she is experiencing the consequences to her horrible actions. I can say that I do hear people, including family members of the ex, say that they think the situation is disturbing but they will not speak up because of fear of social reprisals from that family. My younger daughter has had old friends from outside that friend group reach out to her because they have heard what her sister and her ex have done to her. They express their shock and disgust about the situation and want her to know that most people do not think it is acceptable. They let her know that they heard about it from friends close to my oldest daughter who are afraid to speak out against it, and are uncomfortable reaching out to my younger daughter on their own. I just hate the impression that all those people are giving my oldest daughter by being silent, letting her think that it is okay and that she is just being true to herself. She needs to understand that yes, all feelings are valid but not all actions are acceptable. We have had friends of the ex's parents try to defend the ex to us by saying, he's just a kid, or that, he made a mistake. But this wasn't a one-time error in judgment. This was calculated, deceitful and utterly disrespectful, not an innocent mistake or a moment of confusion. You don't accidentally pursue your ex-girlfriend's sister while still hooking up with her. Last week, my husband and I sat down with our daughter and told her, she's 22. She's an adult. We cannot control who she dates. But if she chooses to continue this relationship, she cannot continue to live in our house. The decision is completely up to her. We are scared to lose our oldest daughter forever, but we will never approve or accept her dating the ex, and it is pointless for her to just wait it out. Their relationship is simply disgusting. So, Reddit, Aita for not supporting my older daughter's relationship and asking her to move out because of it. Full disclosure, I did not always handle the situation well. My anger about the situation would get the better of me and my words became weapons at times. While I have apologized for some of the things that I said, I know that they hurt my children and I do wish that I could take some of those back. Stories number 28. Class reunions. Do you care? This will be 25 years for my class, and apparently it's quite the milestone. To my knowledge, they've held a reunion every 5 years since we got out, and I haven't been to any of them. Honestly, I just don't care. I didn't like high school, I don't look back on it with any nostalgia. Oh sure, I loved my childhood, and I miss my brothers and me being together all the time, and lots of parts of being young, but school didn't factor into that. I had school friends, but I haven't really seen or heard from any of them since we graduated. Now, it's reunion season here in the American Midwest, and I have been invited via Facebook, which I almost never look at, and a proper mailed paper invitation when I didn't respond on FB. Apart from getting added to a reunion group on FB for our 15-year, and finding out in the group chat that I was dead, I haven't had anything to do with these people in 25 years. But, my lack of response to the invites prompted a visit from one of my old classmates, who is part of organizing the event, to my house this evening to touch base and see if I was going to attend. She got genuinely pissy when I said probably not. She pointed out that it's on a Saturday afternoon, and that I only live a half hour from where they're having it, and they're doing a celebration of life for the guy who died last year, first one of our class to die. This woman hasn't seen me or said a word to me in 25 years, I haven't made any effort to reach out to her, or anyone else. Not out of hostility or anything, I just don't care. I wish her well, I wish everyone well. I hope all of them lead long and happy lives as we hit middle age, but I don't feel the need to go spend a few hours making small talk and pretending to care about people I haven't seen for a quarter of a century. Maybe that makes me an asshole. I don't know anyone else have former classmates make a big deal out of a reunion. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I went to my 10th, mainly to see my best friend who was flying in from the other side of the country. It was pretty boring. It was mainly a way for people who already see each other every weekend to get together and see each other on a particular weekend, but with an audience. And my class was so lame, they forgot to do a 25th reunion last year, so they threw something together last minute and scheduled it for 4th of July weekend, you know, the weekend where people never have plans. Face with rolling eyes. Reply. There were 28 of us in my graduating class, and 2 of them were exchange students. The people organizing this 25-year for mine are the 5 popular girls, and they get together all the time anyway. This is just a chance for them to, like you said, get together with an audience at a country club that they wouldn't go to otherwise. Update on the class reunion. It was last night, I didn't go. This morning however I took my granddad to a late breakfast as I often do on Sundays. Uptown at the restaurant I was treated to the aftermath of said reunion. The 5 popular girls who organized it were all there with their respective spouses/dates/whatevers, and were all clearly hungover. Taylor, the one who drove out to my house to fuss about me not going, staggered up to us and told me how I missed a great time, and how it sucks that I'll have to wait 5 years for another chance to have such a good time with all my old classmates. I told her it was my loss, but I was glad she and the others who came had fun and went back to my coffee. She got pissy and said it was really hard for her and the others to put in so much work when so few people care, and if we don't start caring soon, then she and the others might stop caring and doing reunions and alumni events altogether. Turns out, her and the other organizers and their significant others were the only ones that went. A total of 10 people, and 5 of them weren't even in our class. The same 5 that have never left town, and hang out all the time anyway were the crowd. They realized they were the only ones going and decided in the couple weeks leading up to it to go meet with everyone who still lives in the area and see if they could convince them to come. Evidently, it didn't work, and they were all having a poor little me brunch this morning uptown after a night of heavy drinking at the local country club. I feel a little bit sad for them. Honestly, I think you all were right. Some folks really do peak in high school and never get past it. The lecture from Taylor, and the stink eye I was getting from the others told me all I needed to know. This was their chance to hold court and laud their accomplishments of yesteryear over all of us again, but no one cared enough to show up. So Reddit, there's my, I know why I haven't kept in contact with these people, moment. At least my granddad thought it was funny. After Taylor walked away, he asked me if she was the slutty one. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. It's unfortunate that your high school experience must have been so bad that you wouldn't care to catch up with your classmates for a couple of hours even after so much time has passed. Reply. It's not that it was good or bad, I just didn't care about it. It was a hoop I had to jump through to get on to the rest of my life. I didn't hate it, I didn't like it, I just didn't care. I don't look back on that time with any fond memories or nostalgia, just as something I had to do. I'd been with most of the people I graduated with since kindergarten. I don't hate any of them, I hope they all lead long and happy lives at peace, I just have no interest in whatever they're doing in that life 25 years on. OOP on the cost. Cost was definitely an issue. It was $250 per person, so if I'd have gone and brought my wife, it would have been $500 to spend an evening with a group of people who I haven't had anything to do with in years. It would have been even worse than that since nobody but them showed up. I can spend half that amount for an upscale dinner in the city with my wife and avoid all the awkward socializing with people who peaked in high school. Stories number 29. Aita for telling him to eat what I cook or starve. So this has been building up for months. I swear I've tried to be patient. I've tried to stay cool. But I hit my limit, and now I'm getting called rude and dramatic. Here's what happened. I cook almost every night. Nothing fancy, just real food. I try. I put in effort. But every single time, without fail, he makes some comment like, "My mom's version tastes better," or, "That's not how my mom makes it." Like, okay. Then go eat at her house. He doesn't even taste my food sometimes. He just looks at it and already decides it's not gonna be good. Last week I made beef stew, and he straight up said, "My mom adds more garlic, this smells weird," and he didn't touch it. I'm not even exaggerating when I say I felt this close to crying. I stood in the kitchen for hours while he scrolled on his phone, and then he just turned up his nose and made instant noodles instead. The worst part? He didn't even try it. Not one bite. And when I tell him it hurts me, he says, "I'm just being honest." You're too sensitive. Nah. That's not honesty. That's just disrespect. So yeah, yesterday, he tried pulling the same thing again when I served dinner. Looked at it, sighed, mumbled something about his mom again. And I just snapped. I said, "You know what? If you like her cooking so much, maybe you should go eat over there. Or better yet, why don't you call her and ask her to cook for you every night? Because this is what I made, and if you can't eat it, then don't eat at all." He got mad. Said I was being immature. Said I was weaponizing food or whatever. Now he's sulking. Said I embarrassed him. That I'm trying to compete with his mom. I'm not. I never was. I just want to be respected in my own kitchen. In my own home. I'm exhausted. I feel like no matter what I do, it's never good enough. I'm not trying to replace his mom. I'm just trying to be me, and apparently that's not enough. So tell me. Stories number 30. Aita for exposing my ex and my best friend to their families after I found out they were cheating, with help from his siblings. Hi Charlotte and fellow potatoes. This is a throwaway because I never thought I'd be one of the stories you'd read out loud while sipping coffee and raising your eyebrow in disbelief, but here we are. Let's just get into it. I, 27F, was dating Jason, 28M, for nearly 4 years. We lived together for 2, shared bills, split groceries, and had a running Pinterest board titled Our Future Home. You know, couple stuff. We were talking about getting engaged sometime this year. My best friend, Chris, 30F, has been in my life since I was a teenager. We were thick as thieves. She used to call me her ride or die. She even said once, "If you ever got married, I'd plan the bachelorette trip myself." Oh honey, if only I knew. Jason and Chris got along really well, too well, in hindsight. I used to joke about it. "Wow, I swear y'all hang out more than we do." Ha ha ha. So funny. So naive. A few months ago, things started getting weird. Jason suddenly became attached to his phone like it was surgically fused to his hand. Chris pulled away from me emotionally but was always happy to check in on Jason. They started making plans without me. Oh, we just grabbed a quick bite after work. We ran into each other at the gym. We were just catching up. Catching up on what, exactly? My patience. Jason's siblings, his sister and younger brother, also started acting different. Cold. Like I was the awkward outsider at a family dinner I used to help plan. I figured I had done something wrong. Spoiler alert, I hadn't. I was just being slowly replaced and no one told me. Then one weekend, Jason said he had to go out of town for a family thing. I helped him pack. Kissed him goodbye. Sent him off with snacks and good wishes like a supportive girlfriend. Chris, being Chris, posted a cozy little Instagram story that same night. A wine glass. A fireplace. 2 sets of legs. Except I recognized one of those sets of legs. The jeans. The sneakers. They were Jason's. I bought those shoes. I didn't say anything right away. I wanted to be wrong. But something in my gut said I wasn't. When Jason got back, I waited until he fell asleep, and I checked the iPad he'd forgotten to log out of. His iMessages were synced. Let me just say, I wish I hadn't looked, but also, thank God I did. He and Chris had been hooking up for over a year. There were flirty messages, gross sexts, voice notes, inside jokes, screenshots of conversations with his siblings. Yes, his siblings were cheering them on. There were messages like, "She's still clueless, lol. Just tell her already, bro. You and Chris are way better together anyway." They were hiding a whole ass relationship from me while I was cooking dinner for them. Jason even said, "It's hard laying next to her when I wish it was you, sir. You're in my bed. Eating my snacks. With my Hulu login." I didn't scream. I didn't key cars. I packed a bag, went to my cousin's place, and thought it over. 2 days later, I calmly told Jason I knew. That I saw everything. His reaction, "You went through my messages. That's a serious violation of trust." I think my soul briefly left my body. Then came the gaslighting. "You always do this. You're insecure. You push people away with your drama." I push people away. Boy, you are emotionally cheating, and probably physically, with my best friend and I'm the dramatic one. Anyway, I blocked Chris. She sent a long, teary, "It just happened" message. I didn't care, but I didn't stop there. I sent the messages, screenshots, and voice notes to Jason's parents and Chris's mom. Not to be petty, but because I was tired of feeling like the crazy one while they told their families I was emotionally unstable and clingy. Jason had been painting me as the bad guy to his family for months. His mom told me I was cold toward him and needed to be more understanding. After she saw the truth, she apologized. Genuinely. Chris's mom. She was silent for a minute and just said, "I'm sorry you had to go through this." Now Jason and Chris are officially together. Soft launching themselves like nobody died. Sometimes love grows where you least expect it. Yeah, like in the shadow of Betrayal. Now Jason's siblings and a few mutuals are saying I crossed a line and made everything awkward between families, and that I should have just walked away like a mature adult. So Reddit. Am I the a-holy for refusing to let them lie about me and exposing them to their families? ***. Or should I have just taken the L quietly while they made me look like the bitter ex?